everybody. If it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer, and that must mean it's time for another episode of Warhammer Weekly. Joining me, as always, both co-hosts. It's only one person, yet they're both here. Tom, you're the official co-host for tonight. How you doing?
Doing well. How's everybody else doing?
Okay, we're good. Heck of a delay there. But all right. Tyler is the guest tonight because we just got the whole crew together because we're going to be talking about the new General's Handbook. Tyler, how you doing?
Fantastic. I'm
Wonderful.
so ready for 4 hours.
It's
Got
not going to
water.
be 4 hours. Put that away right now. This is not going to be 4 hours.
No.
We're going to move through this quickly.
You'll get a show of no comment from me.
Absolutely. So, the new GHB is here, and we're going to talk about it. But first, of course, we've got some other stuff to attend to. Let's talk about the news. There's not a lot of it, but there's a little. What's going on, Tom? What's in the news?
Let's talk about that rumor engine.
It's a 40K thing. Next, who cares?
Who likes 40K?
It's fine, but
That's fair. Yeah,
next.
that's fair. So we have the Warcry Blood Hunt teaser.
Yes.
Man, those boxes march on.
Every quarter. That's how it happens. 3 months. Goes by pretty fast.
Yeah.
It's not a long amount of time.
It's shocking. So what were your all thoughts on that tease?
It's fine. We saw that both of those miniatures that are there, I think one of them we had thought might be a Slanesh miniature. The other one was clearly Khorne, just from the look of it, are actually the Warcry miniatures. So they're not the one hero that comes with those books theoretically. But that's fine. Yeah, sure. Cool beans. I mean, like, I'm excited for it. I think that the Warcry releases have been some of the strongest stuff on a while. We've been on an increasing trajectory. I loved the Jade Stone people versus the Little Lizard people. Thought that was fantastic. So I can't wait to see what this one is. I think this one's going to be a banger. That's my personal take on it.
Yeah, I mean, what I'll say is this: I've been beating this drum for a while. I've appreciated their terrain that's been coming out of this. It's really just sharp looking, and I'm looking forward to what else we might see.
Yep. I agree with Curran. Says still means the hope for a new Volkia sculpt is alive. That's right. Silver linings. Let's find it. So there we go. One can only hope. Okay. What else we got in the news?
We have the U.S. Open locations for the World Championships. So that was excited to finally have that announced. Man, they really know how to pick weekends for me. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, did you look at, because this is so there's 4 locations. I have the map up on the screen now, and Atlanta is actually the finals, right? That's where the finals are. So really, we're talking about Tacoma, Kansas City, and Tampa Bay. Right. So pretty good geographic distribution across the country, I've got to say. So pretty nice there. And all of these tickets go on sale February 3rd, if memory serves. Is that right? The very beginning of February. So yeah, cool stuff. I mean, I know I wouldn't be going to any of these events, so I'm good. But Tom, I take it you looked at those weekends and were like, oh, it's all stuff you already had accounted for.
Well, I mean, some of it, I have commitments the week of the championship, and so that spoils the whole pot for me, right? Like,
sure.
Yep.
Gotcha. That's
out of the window. And it looks like that it might be that week every year. And if that's the case, I'm just not in, it's just it's a non-bow for me.
Yeah, sure. Sure. Tyler, what about you? One of those is not too super far from you.
Yeah, the Kansas City one, and I saw it's going to be a teams event. So I'm thinking about doing that one with a Springfield crew.
Nice.
I'd like to, we talked about, I would like to learn more, experience more of the teams format, get a better feel for it. So yeah, it's got me intrigued.
I know that was on your list for the year, so that did surprise me. That one, that is not on your doorstep, but it's certainly not far. I'll say so. You are in that area there. Well, my answer is I think these will be great. I'm also excited to see, by the way, that you can get your golden tickets with other events, as it were, just like with last year. So working with a lot more events. So cool stuff. I look forward to seeing how it all shapes out. And Martin said no Northeast events again. GW doesn't like our venue prices, probably. I mean, I'm sure that's true. Like, the Northeast is super expensive to host events in, so yep. I mean, I know my company very rarely puts any events in the Northeast for very obvious reasons.
I have never paid as much for an event as I did at Atlantic City.
Sure.
So
yeah, it's just high cost. So sure, I mean, the unfortunate reality of it, probably. Okay, cool. That's the news. Boom.
Yeah.
Done. We're getting through it. Let's do some pick of the week. Tyler, hit me with them picks of the week. What do you got, brother?
All right.
You get one.
He's got
one
two.
Means two. One means two, Tom. That's how this works.
Better not take my other one.
Jeremy Vessier, he's got a new channel. He's on Team America. Very thoughtful guy. He had a great video this week on new GHB missions, some of the changes, how he thinks on average we're looking at playing on less board space, fewer average number of objectives, and the impact that's going to have on the game, in particular the state of shooting. So highly recommend that video, especially if you're interested in competitive, kind of top-end competitive play. Very thoughtful. And then we're
going to be talking a lot of second and third order consequences tonight, because when you make these big changes, I mean, to the system, there are going to be consequences, intended and otherwise. So we'll see how it shakes out. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, so rerolling ones, I've mentioned them in a little while. They had a first bat rep with the new GHB, Zinch versus Nurgle, and they always do those great skits, and this one in particular was spot on. I appreciated their skit. I don't want to give it away, but yeah, it was great bat rep. So
solid. Yes, I watched that as well. I enjoyed that one. Tom, what do you got? What do you want to share with everybody?
Yeah, I mean, kind of on brand, on topic for us. I'm going to promote AOS Coaches. He recently did a show this last week on kind of the battle pack review for the new GHB this season 2. And I want to promote that because he did an excellent job.
Perfect.
Yeah, and I want to give as two brief things. One is I want to give a shout out to Emily. I know that Tyler will probably want to join in on me.
Yes.
With me. Vince, you talked about your thank you from Emily. I likewise received a Let Me Be Clear dice tray. And I think Tyler also received a wonderful gift. So thank you for celebrating the 8th anniversary of our show that way. It's 8, right?
No, it'll be 9.
We started in 2015?
Yeah. 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. I don't know. Maybe it's 2014. I'll go back and look. It doesn't matter. I'll figure it out when we do it. It's the 28th. I know the date. Yeah. I don't know how many years.
Sure. Indeed. It doesn't matter.
I mean, my wedding anniversary is engraved on the inside of my ring. See, I got to do the same thing. I got to get a second ring.
Yeah.
The Warhammer Weekly ring.
There.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the question is, what kind of ring? But so now we need to do the other one that I wanted to say thank you to was, or not say thank you, but just highlight for those that are interested in the on the other side of the tracks in CCGs. We often talk about Magic. So for those of you that are playing bingo this evening, here's your Magic reference. The new set is dawning, a big kind of epic crescendo to the Phyrexian saga that's been unfolding. And actually, like, I read their narratives. Like, this is something I never do.
Sure.
Is read like the stories that they published.
Because all lore is dumb, but continue.
But I got sucked into one and I was like, no, I want to read the rest of these. And so I went back and read like the 5 or 6 stories about like the deep strike into Phyrexia. And so it's just super fascinating. A bunch of planeswalkers get die and iced and stuff like that. It's great. A bunch of big names have been around for a long time. So I would, if that even the least bit interests you, the narrative was surprisingly good. So I want to share that with everybody.
Very nice. Yes, it's a very touching thing for a very large-brained individual to be in love with the Medusa. So the love takes all forms. I don't judge. So my pick of the week is going to be to a couple of friends of the show, but specifically to a Kickstarter. Now, we don't often talk about Kickstarters because most of the time it's not something I like repping or talking about, but this one stands apart. This is from Dark Fantastic Mills in collaboration with a lot of individuals that are people that we like and respect. Steve Foote is involved in this, and this is for the Chaos Citadels. It is linked down below. Looks super cool. It's already funded. So, it's like you're just basically jumping on board now at this point. You don't have any concern about that. Link is down in the description. Go check it out. Look at this awesome terrain. It's amazing. Dark Fantastic Mills has been obviously someone who's made incredible stuff for a long, long time. Who I've had the good fortune to play on tables that were furnished by them at events. And, it's just exceptional quality. So 10 out of 10, check it out. Links down below. So thank you to everybody for getting this going, and I can't wait to see how big it gets. So there you go.
They are simply stunning.
Yeah.
And if anybody in the community deserves support, it's Gary at Dark Fantastic Mills for everything that he's been doing. We worked with him a lot on Vault Wars last year. He did all the awards for us. He donated terrain to us. Yeah, he's outstanding. And a lot of people have those stories around the community. The guy's awesome.
Yep.
And let me just say as an aside, it's a wonderful callback to some very terrible terrain that was released at one point in time. That I love to death. Don't misunderstand me. I did. But let me just call out just how ingenious his the three-way joint system that he developed for these. I don't know if you guys actually took a look at it. But not only does it one of the things, in addition to the number of problems with that other terrain that I'm not going to talk about, is that this stuff actually not only does it slot together, but he's created slots for magnets to go in as well.
Sure.
And so you can actually not only is it you can customize the how things go together, but it'll actually stay together because of both the slot. There's two different types of slots plus a magnet, and it's an ingenious joint system. So I want to just call that out. It's nice.
Very nice. Awesome. Check it out. Link below. All right, let's talk about some hobby time. We're moving quick because we want to get to that hot GHB action. Tyler, what have you been working on, buddy?
Yeah, I finished up that little tree. Had a few more things to do to it, and then I've got my next hangout tomorrow night. So, yeah, I'm really excited. I think it's going to be a long one tomorrow night. Hopefully we'll get a lot done on this Nurgle army.
Very nice. Very nice. Good luck. Get painting, get the paint jam going. Nothing gets you painting more than hanging out with friends who are also painting. All right. Tom, you've obviously got a lot on your plate right now, so I'm not sure what you've got, if you've got any hobby time in, but what you've been working on.
That's an understatement. My hobby time has been in, I'm going to pull a U. It's being invested in something that I can't talk about right now.
Yes, this is true.
Yeah. But when that can be public, I look forward to sharing the news of what I've been working on.
I have no judgment for you there, Tom. You're working on something that I fully support you doing and want you to dump all of your effort and life into. All right.
Indeed.
So I am painting a new thing that I can't talk about, but that's okay. I can show this previous thing that I finished at the beginning of this week, which is this guy right here. Big Papa Horus Ascended. As soon as I got this dude, obviously GW sent this to me, and thank you to them. But they sent this along to me, and I was like, I don't normally care about painting Space Marines, and I don't normally like black armor, but I saw this dude, and I was like, well, I'm gonna paint this guy. Immediately, I'm just like, this guy's getting painted. He's just incredible. Yeah, he's just incredible. It's a fairly fiddly fig, just because he has so many beeps and boops and doodads on him and such. But man, this guy was actually really fun to paint. So, and I, for those who were observant, you would have noticed that during the announcement of my paint set with Monument Hobbies, this was the figure I was displaying some of it on. He's all done now. And there'll be a couple more videos actually having to do with this guy. So you'll get the full story. So if you like big giant bad boys, then I got you covered in the coming weeks. He has lots of those too, Noops. How long did he take me? I don't know. A while. A couple. I don't know. 50, 60 hours probably, somewhere in that range. Like, I didn't go super hard on him. He's not for competition or anything. I wanted to do him up to display quality, but like, I could have easily spent hundreds of hours on this guy and gone nuts, but like, he was just, I wanted him to be fun, not painful. And plus I needed to make a video about it, so I couldn't just spend a month painting the dude. Anyways, but super fun. So Cody, love to hear that. Glad to hear that Payne's Gray is your new favorite paint. It's right here on my desk as well. Like, getting used for that stuff. So there you go. Tom, you came up to visit, and I meant to give you one of the paint sets and then totally forgot. So remind me, and I was going to give you one because I got an extra one to give you one, and then I forgot. But I'll try to remember for next week. Okay.
Sweet.
That's what I love to hear. Thank you, Anthony. Much appreciated. So that's some hobby time. Gentlemen, are you ready to get into the G, the H, and the B? I'm not talking about your Georgia homeboy here. I'm talking about the General's Handbook. Okay. 2022-2023 Season 2. For some reason, let's go ahead and stop this. Let's just never do this again. Okay? Before, this isn't even in my overview. This is just number 1 out of the gate. Let's have this be like the last 6-month season. So assumingly we get a new one in the middle of the year, right? Because that's when they normally happen. Fine. So this will effectively be this last 6-month season. Yeah? And then from that point forward, let's just go back to years. Let's just do that. We all good? Okay, cool.
Give us a 6-month battle plan PDF at the 6-month interval.
Fine. Add a couple battle plans at the 6-month period. Great. Perfect. No issues with that whatsoever. Throwing out a PDF, like, here's some new, publish a new PDF, like our event pack with some new event battle plans. Great. Okay. All right, let's do this. Now, that being said, let's talk about the overview of this thing. All right, all the basic battle pack stuff remains the same. What I mean by that is, remember, a battle pack defines things like unit limits, what it means to play a pitched battle, how many allies you can have, how does mysterious terrain work, right? All that stuff is technically part of the battle pack.
Sure.
Right? So that all stays the same. Like, we're still dealing with the same game. I don't know, like fundamentals. There we go. That's the word I'm looking for. Okay. That's not to say the changes aren't big, because they are. Okay. So Galatian veterans, all that stuff, that's gone. Forget about that. Bounty hunters, all that stuff, gone. Just as we had foretold. Okay. Of course, everybody knew that was going to be gone. And instead, now the age of Galatian veterans is over. Not that you ever played those or anyone ever saw those. Never happened. And instead, now the age of Galatian champions has dawned. If you love foot assassin melee heroes, this is your time. It's time to shine, boys. Or is it? Or will this be the same thing over again, where the thing that the whole season is supposed to focus on, it doesn't. It backfires, and we never see those. Just like we never saw Galatian veterans. Who knows? I guess we will at the end of this presentation. I would say, so now let's get into those. That's like some basics. Here's my initial read, very high level. I don't think this new season has the same swingy potential at first glance as the last season. What I mean by that is, like, there's no clear bounty hunters to me here. Okay? That just, like, absolutely breaks the game wide open. And is like, this is so busted silly, right? It's just bent. But there's still a lot of complexity to this season. So that's like a very surface read. But what do you think, Tom? What's your read on that? What's your feeling?
I mean, I hold a very similar position. I think that it's not as, like, it doesn't feel as dramatic. It doesn't feel as overwhelming as the prior one when we talk about the shifts. I think that there's going to be some or some interesting opportunities. And I think we'll talk about some of that.
Yep. Tyler, what's your read?
So just kind of high level.
Yeah,
what
super
do I think?
high level. Yeah.
I think this will be a best blend of elements and the best ecosystem that we've had so far in 3.0 relative to the past 2 seasons that we've seen to date. Now that's a low bar, in particular with last season, but yeah, and it would be better if we were able to wave a wand and exclude action battle tactics, which controversial.
Apparently, it's very controversial. I didn't realize how controversial it was until today's Twitter discussion. Warhammer Twitter was all a flurry with this discussion today.
So I get the perspective, it's not going to happen. The perspective that it's part of the game, therefore it's part of the game, therefore it's going to be played. But I do think that it would be a better world to live in if this season were played without faction battle tactics. Now that's kind of a complicated, nuanced discussion with a number of layers, moving parts, but yeah, I'm excited in general about this season.
Yeah, I think that I think Flaming has a good point here, which is I think his read is pretty accurate. We'll quibble here and there, but this is the GCs are much more forced into this go round than the Galatian veterans were. Like you really feel the need, the presence for these things in a lot of ways, right? And I think that is going to have some effects. Like that's going to mean something. So now at the same time, just if you think about the footprint of your army and what they potentially represent, GCs do take up less space somehow mentally, although maybe not points wise, than Galatian veterans did or theoretically could have. Right? You know what I mean? Like when it was your core battle line units, and it's like, but this is my army, and certainly that's a Skaven perspective speaking. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But whereas this is like, okay, it's these 3 guys or gals, right? It's these 3 people, as opposed to the rest of the force. So I do think there's an interesting sort of dichotomy there. I'm sorry, what were you going to say, Tyler?
Yeah, at a high level, my initial read on this, and having played a dozen games so far, Galatian champions will be moderately relevant, particularly because of some of the new missions, the set of 6 new missions, right?
Yep.
They're not going to be highly relevant because of faction battle tactics. If you did not have faction battle tactics, suddenly Galatian champions would elevate in terms
would become
of
like the most important thing. Yeah.
Now I know there's an argument that will say, well, that's just another level in which inequity can exist, which is that of the 25 some factions, right, some of them will have better Galatian champs than others. So you're moving the goalpost.
By the way, it's not even close. Like some of these have amazing GCs, and some of these have none to poor.
Yeah.
Right.
So in terms of expressing the design intent of this season, it's just my perspective is that if you want to have a closer orientation around what appears to be the design intent, then faction battle tactics would be that. Getting rid of those would be that closer expression. But
Sure.
As it stands, it will be moderately relevant because of some of these new missions.
Yep. Okay, let's get into the specifics, because there's probably people watching that are like, but Vince and Tom and Tyler, what in the holy heck is a Galatian champion? What does any of this mean? All right, that's a reasonable question somebody's probably asking. So let me just hit this real quick. There we go. I just realized I didn't tweet about the show, which I should do. So why not just do that live on the air? That's fun. It's a fun thing
Sounds
to do.
great.
Okay,
sure
there we
people
go.
just love that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what people want. Me on Twitter. Okay, so let's do this. Here we go. Oh, I should state real quick, I do have one more final point I want to make here. There is more in this season. So not only is there battalions and the normal crap we've come to expect, spell, command ability, There's also artifacts and unique enhancements. We're back. Okay, we're back. Don't worry, Gareth. We're not going to get into it again. I'm tired of that off of Twitter all day. I mean, but it'll come up. It'll come up. It's a relevant part of this discussion. Okay, Galatian champions. What are they? Well, heroes with a wounds characteristic of less than 10 that do not have a mount and are not unique. Okay, that's our Galatian champions. That's why I said foot melee assassins. Like, that kind of a person is more or less what it is. Or your classic utility guys or something like that, right? So what does that mean? Okay, simple. Let's give some easy, quick examples. Mega Boss on Maw Crusher? No, not a Galatian champion. Mega Boss on Foot? Yes, a Galatian champion. Doom Bull? Galatian champion. Dragon Ogre Shaggoth? Not a Galatian champion. 10 wounds. 10 wounds continues to be the worst number of wounds you can have in this game. Yeah. So that just continues to ride, and I'm good with it. Like, fine. Just, if you're going to print 10 wound heroes, they should be docked 50 points immediately. If you thought it was a 300-point hero, it's a 250-point hero. Take the same hero, same stats, exactly, except one of them is 9 wounds and one of them is 10 wounds. That 10 wound guy should be 50 points cheaper than his 9 wound counterpart. That's how much of a difference we're talking about here. Okay.
I mean,
also, just a brief comment around the mount thing. Don't forget the FAQ came out separating that companions, so like your fishy friends on your IDK heroes, as an easy example, are not counted as a mount. So you don't have to worry about that. Your little tiny IDK heroes with their fish friends are still Galatian champions. Thumbs up. Okay. So that's what we're talking about here, right? So what does this mean? What does being a Galatian champion mean? Well, friendly Galatian champions cannot be picked as the target of attacks with missile weapons while they're within 1 inch of any friendly battle line units. All right, so we got the thing. We're going to try this. We're going to try this for a season, right? This is the thing that everybody's been screaming about for 8 years.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
This has been it. Like everybody said, the problem with the game. I love everything when it starts with that. That's always my favorite sentence.
Yep.
The problem with the game is that you can kill these little heroes. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, I've never personally believed that. I think being able to kill little utility heroes is the only thing that keeps the silly little buggers in check. Because I think, like, utility heroes, most powerful unit in the game. Foot assassins, second worst unit in the game. Only beaten out by non-hero monsters that its only purpose is to go beat things in the face. Yep. So we've got quite a disparity here of people we're protecting. Right? Like, one of the best units in the game and one of the worst both fall into this same category. So I wonder which ones will be the ones everybody takes. Okay. Tough decisions. Well, we'll see how they're not completely unaware of that.
Sure.
And they tried to give us some stuff to counteract that. So what did they do to counteract that? Keith Rogers, yeah, effectively it's the 40k thing. You can't shoot my foot heroes unless, yes. So as long as you're around battle line units, you can't be shot. There is an interesting secondary consequence of this, by the by, that I want to mention real quick, which is this protection only extends when you're near battle line units, right?
Correct.
And that is interesting because some armies actually do very much minimize their battle line or intend their battle line to be like very easily destroyed frontline chaff that just evaporates in a matter of seconds while other units do the heavy lifting. Those armies will have a problem with protecting their Galatian champs with the key to victory rule because they just actually won't have any battle line units to stand near. So it is a thing to consider. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Cody says, listen, we can't have the problem with the game discussion without bringing on Miniac. Yeah, you're not wrong, Cody. Don't worry. We'll do the Miniac show of why AOS is bad in the future with him at some point. That'll be a very fun show. It'll just be him complaining about the priority roll for like 50 hours.
It'll be great.
I can't wait. It'll be like 2016 all over again. Okay. So, desperate action. If you're taking the second turn in the current battle round, at the start of your hero phase, you can pick one friendly Galatian champion on the battlefield to carry out 2 heroic actions instead of 1. All right. How good is this rule? Tyler, how good is this? Seems good.
It's been middling in the relevance, my experience so far. Certainly when you compare it to Seismic Shift, Season 1, and Proving Ground. I know we had a different opinion about Proving Ground, but I found Proving Ground to be quite meaningful. It's pretty middling in my experience so far. Now, I may just not be running armies that can leverage it, but yeah. From my experience.
What's your read on it?
Yeah, I mean, what I would say is it's going to depend on which army book you're using, right?
Sure.
Like, I look at this and I think, man, I'd like to run this with Fire Slayers.
Sure.
Right? Because, being able to empower Rune and Finest Hour. Be able to, for those that actually have, 2 really good heroic actions, I think that there may be some gas here.
Sure.
And in fact, I think that this is going to be a pretty good season for Fire Slayers. But yeah, so I don't know. I mean, what I'll say is I think your mileage will vary.
Yeah, I think that. Oh, go ahead.
Because what I mean by that is not only is it army specific, but I think sometimes it looks like it's going to matter, and it just may not matter as much. Because oftentimes your heroic actions are dictated by what's going on in the game, and there may not be good secondary heroic actions to trigger. That's what I would say.
Right. Yeah.
So
your mileage will probably vary.
Yeah, I think this is going to be so I think it is an interesting incentive to go second. I think if you're going to win on the double, you're not taking the double because of this. Right? So
that's what I mean by middling. Yeah,
right.
You're not what you just said.
Right. That's it, right?
Whereas Proving Ground was a major incentive.
You might be able to not win because of the nature of what happened with Proving Ground or Seismic Shift. Right? Like an objective that you need to score might suddenly be unscorable for you, and that might prevent you from the win.
Right.
This is a completely positive incentive. That is to say, you win the prio roll and you're thinking okay, do I go for the double turn or do I go second to get desperate action? I don't think there's a world where I'm making the choice to go second because of desperate action. Yeah, this is this is a rebate coupon. Right? Cool, I'm glad I get it. It's a neat benefit. But this is a cashback award at best.
Yeah.
Right. And what it will often mean is, and CW, you just took the words right out of my mouth. What it will often mean is you do the thing you need to do, and then you also heal.
Sure. Yeah. Or Finest Hour, or absolutely.
Yeah. Exactly. So, that'll. I think that when you look at this, it is a fairly weak benefit when taken on the whole, averaged across the game. I think in the hands of certain armies that have quite potent heroic actions that were competing against other things, especially those books that have, army-specific heroic actions. It's a nice Benny, and they'll make some hay out of it, right? But again, it's on your Galatian champion. This is your small foot hero. This often wasn't the guy you were really desperate to use the heroic actions on most of the time anyways. Let's be honest, your heroic actions often get dedicated to your big, important, splashy, monstrous heroes or whatever, right?
Oh, right.
So, but that's not always universally the case. You know, you talked about like Cabalists and being a fan. Great, right? It's great for some.
Yeah, maybe I'd have to look. This could be wrong, so maybe somebody can check me on this because I don't have the book in front of me. But Slaves of Darkness, right? So they had the Pledge to Dark Gods, heroic action, and Drawn Power, heroic action, right?
Yep.
Okay, so I had been taking Undivided on at least some of my now galley champs as mitigation of them potentially getting turned into a spawn from the 3d6 roll, right?
Sure.
Whereas now, if I'm understanding this, like I said, I don't have it in front of me, so I could be wrong. You could just take both of those heroic actions, and the Pledge to Dark Gods gives you the protection because I think you're rolling 3 dice instead of 2 dice, and you pick the 2 that you want on Pledge
as
to
long
Dark
as
Gods.
the same hero would qualify for both. Yeah, there's no reason.
Along the same hero, right? Exactly. So that could be a way that now you don't necessarily have to take Undivided for the protection against turning yourself into a Chaos Spawn on rolling the double ones on your miscast. Or sorry, I'm thinking of Chaotic Conduit, the spell to get the easy battle tactic. I'm all over the place on this. To get the easy battle tactic for
let's cut to the heart of the matter here, Tyler. Not to interrupt you, but the reality is you're still going to take Undivided because you're not going to risk on the turns where you don't have 2 heroic actions. You're not going to risk spawning them, even though you should, because who cares?
That's very fair. No, you're absolutely right.
You're too risk averse for chaos. Okay, this is why you shouldn't play chaos.
I mean that checks out probably.
You got it. Chaos is about risking it for the biscuit, it, my friend. All right.
Yeah.
So, here we go. What else is here? So we got these extra heroic actions. Well, they gave us some new ones. Okay. So the 2 heroic actions can only be carried out by Galatian champions. These are specific to this season. And clearly this is an incentive to try to buff the melee foot assassin heroes that they know are, as previously stated, basically the second worst unit type in the game. Right? Utility heroes, already good, but who cares? They often also don't use or need heroic actions. They're like just literally there to exist, right? And pass out their buffs and their sippy cups and their whatever else they happen to have. Okay. So foot assassins needed the buff. So what are we doing for that? All right, well, we've got the 2 heroic actions are Strike at the Opening, which is pick 1 friendly Galatian champion within 3 inches of an enemy unit. That hero can fight if it has not already fought in that phase. However, that hero cannot fight again in that phase, and the strike last effect applies to that hero until the end of turn. Okay. So I get to fight with this foot hero in the hero phase, as long as I'm within 3 inches of an enemy. But then in the combat phase, I'll strike last. Yeah? Fair enough. Yep. That's what's happening here.
Yep.
Hero phase fighting is something I care about a lot less than hero phase shooting. It's generally fine. Because you have to be in combat when it swings back to your hero phase, so it's not always something you do. We're talking about the worst, least offensive characters in general here. Like they're the second worst unit type, but they are the lowest actual damage per point in the game. Like this is truly throwing good money after bad, because this is the lowest damage per point in the game. I cannot state that emphatically enough. Every other unit type in the game has a higher average damage per point. Okay? All right. What is the worst unit type in the game, Prussian Warfare? Monsters. Non-hero monsters. Especially melee non-hero monsters. So here we're talking about your Charybdises, your War Hydras, your Cygors, and Gorgons, and so on. Terrible. They have no purpose. Okay. It especially helps if you give them all a 5+ save, which is what GW tends to do. That just makes them really bad.
The worst,
okay.
In fact.
All right. So, timing question. Not sure if this is best for the FAQ. If I'm missing something, can you choose the action then save the hero phase fight till after you cast a spell? No, you cannot. You have to, like, heroic actions are start of the hero phase. You can stack all of your start of the hero phase stuff however you want. So, for example, if you happened to be in the I can do 2 heroic actions thing, right, that we just talked about, the desperate action thing, you could, and you're talking about some foot hero, he could declare his best day ever, or finest hour as it's really called, and then make his second one this. That would be perfectly fine. You could declare your battle tactic to, like, eye for an eye and then kill the unit in the hero phase. That would be perfectly legitimate. So, like, all of these things are valid, but no, when you declare an effect, you have to immediately then resolve that thing. Okay. Great. So that's number 1. Simple. Who cares? Average low damage heroes fighting in the hero phase. Got it. Then we've got lead by example. Pick one friendly Galatian champion that has a sworn bodyguard unit. We'll get to that later. That's coming in a moment. And that has just carried out the strike at the opening heroic action. If that sworn bodyguard unit is wholly within 6 inches of that Galatian champion, and within 3 inches of an enemy unit, that sworn bodyguard unit can fight if it has not already fought in that phase. Blah, blah, blah. They can't fight again, and strike last applies to them as well. Okay. So, what does this mean? This means you have to be effectively in a place where you can use 2 heroic actions, because you got to use the strike at the opening first, and then it lets you pull your bodyguard unit in with you to fight also. So the standard chain activation, but this one's in the hero phase. In a moment, we're going to talk about how you do this in the combat phase as well, because you can do both.
Yeah.
Okay. The key being, though, you have to use the strike at the opening first before you use this, so you got to be in a place where you use 2 heroic actions. You cannot just pick lead by example and fight with the unit or something goofy like that in the hero phase. Nor can you do it if the hero already fights in the hero phase for, like, some other reason, right? Which there are many reasons why you might fight in the hero phase.
Yeah.
Okay. What do we think of these heroic actions? Tyler, where are you living with these?
So, again, I think they're going to be highly situational. Some armies will be able to take more advantage of them than others. But the impact will be pretty moderate. You can, with certain armies, build into it a little bit. So far in a dozen games, I've had one example where this meaningfully came into play. It was Chosen and a Chaos Lord. One of the best pairings that one can think of, right? With something like this. Where the Chosen were in a position of the board with the matchup and kind of where we were in the game. We were playing the position over power, where the flank objectives were going to go away. And we were kind of coming up on that, right? So I didn't really have the option to just ignore these Chosen that are generally in the middle of the board on my side, right? So I went into them with a Great Unclean One, not kitted out optimally for combat. And he whiffed, and I wasn't. And then after I whiffed, oh crap! I just realized what I'd done. My opponent's right. He's gonna get. We were coming up on his opportunity to leverage.
Use it. Yeah. Because he was going at the bottom of the round. It was about to tick to his turn.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, I think it'll be situational, but it will matter sometimes.
Tom.
Yeah. I'm really mixed on them, to be honest.
Sure.
I'm just not, I'm not certain that they're going to turn games like I think people have some, not a lot, but some have espoused, right? I think they're fine.
Yeah, I'll go a step farther. I don't think they're good at all. I think they're actually, like, bad.
You think they're a trap?
Yeah. Because I think you'll be able to use them extremely rarely. You'll be burning, outside of a few very special corner cases with people who can really juice heroic actions.
Yeah.
You're like S2D, right? Being probably the one army where this isn't a trap. Because you could also have, like, because of that thing you mentioned, there could also be a Demon Prince over there somewhere, like, also double heroic actioning or something or whatever, like there's lots of options there.
Right.
I think most of the time this isn't going to be the heroic actions you want to do. the book heroic actions are mostly good and the things you want to be doing, like just the core ones. Okay. I think most of the time your unit won't actually be in position. 6 inches is a relatively tight circle. It's not that you can't plan ahead for it, but you've got to really plan ahead for it. Okay. And then hope your unit survives and get to the right place and have the right situation occur, and then decide to burn, both your heroic actions on this one thing that maybe does something, right? I mean, I just don't think they're good. I think they're actually just legit bad. That's it. I'm not saying they'll never do anything. That's not the bar for bad.
Sure. Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
That would be completely useless. I don't think they're completely useless. I want to be super clear, right?
Yeah.
I think they're bad. I think in 95% of games, this will never come up and it will never mean anything, and you will just forget it and it won't be relevant.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, guys, dozen games, I've had one instance where it's come into play. And I could have avoided that, well, a little bit at least. That was more of an oops, not realizing, forgetting about the rule. But yeah, there's kind of a chain of thought that begins with the expectation of this season we'll have more bodies. I mean, I suspect we all fell aligned around that notion. We're gonna have more bodies probably this season with bounty hunters alone, going away, and then kind of that tying into battle plans having us play on less of the board. Like the average objectives and space we were playing on the board was higher last season. It was one of the highest I think that we've ever had. Silk Stillness, 8 objectives, close to the chest, 6 objectives, etc. So you kind of add all that up, I think we're going to have more, I mean, Jeremy talked about this in his video, more brawling over primary objective scoring. If we have more brawling over primary objective scoring, and you have classic power pairings, 10, 15 Hearthguard Berserkers with pick your hero, 10 Protectors with a Castellant, maybe this will come into play a little bit more than is expected.
I want to construct a situation where everything you said can be true and this is still bad. And that is Sworn Bodyguard just isn't a battalion worth taking. Right? If it ends up being more valuable to be one, like, you got to have that battalion.
Yeah.
To take this, to use this. Yeah. Like, there is a straight battalion gate on this that will increase your drops, right? And so if Bat Reg ends up being valuable enough that people don't care, like if the counter shooting isn't enough that it matters, right? That people don't feel the need to like outdraw, like, or whatever, and people just stay cloistered around Battle Regiment, 75% of the tourney list stay in Bat Reg. Then who cares? Like, whatever. This isn't even going to impact your games. Like, nobody has this thing. Nobody even qualifies for it.
Yeah. So there is, of course. I mean, maybe I'll hold out thoughts, but there's one battle tactic where Sworn Bodyguard is relevant potentially. So maybe I'll save some thoughts until we get into battle tactics.
Sure.
Yeah, I generally agree with the theme of what you're saying.
Yeah. Again, I'd love to be proven wrong here. I'd love to know that they're writing rules that are actually like useful and will show up in the game, but I just don't think this crosses that bar. I think there's way too many places it can trip. Okay. Let's keep going. So who are winning GCs? Let's talk about these Galatian champions. These alleged Galatian champions. Who are these winners? Okay. So my pick, like, the utility guys are just utility guys. Fine. It's neat. Like, I want to say they're not pictured in this list because I don't care. Like, a utility guy that's just there to provide buffs, never needs to use the heroic actions, doesn't care about using the bonus one, and now suddenly just can't be targeted.
Yeah.
Right? Outside of the sniper battalion, which we'll talk about in a moment. Or spells or other types of things, which we'll also talk about in a moment. Right? But to me, if you're actually going to play this rule and like have some desire to use this heroic action combo, right? If you're trying to play into the season, then who can actually make money off of this, as it were, right? So I've got a selection here of 5 heroes I think are okay at this. 4 that I think are pretty obvious, and then 1 that is my wild card pick. Okay.
Okay.
But you have to, not only does the
Are
melee...
you... Sorry to interrupt, buddy. Are you constraining... What's your criteria?
Melee foot heroes who can do damage, but also have the potential to pull a powerful unit into combat that can fit easily within 6 inches, reasonably as the way they would want to operate as a power.
Okay, so we're mainly talking about the heroic actions here in terms of assessing the relevance of galley champs.
Not just the heroic actions, but also then for the coming battalion, right? Because it's going to be the same situation there when I want to do it in a combat phase, right? Okay. So who can make the best use of this stuff, right? That's what I'm asking. Like, they've provided us a set of tools. Chain fighting here is specifically the tool, right? In either the hero phase or the combat phase, as we'll see in a second, right? And so who are those melee foot assassins that we think could actually, like, do some work? And my answer is these guys. Like your Ogre Tyrant, your Doom Bull, the Doom Bull especially, who classically just got shot to crap and would just die before he got anywhere near combat. This protects him as long as he's near his Minotaur buddies. Minotaurs aren't, are pretty cool. Bogor or whatever they're called. And so pretty reasonable damage clapback on that. Let's hope it's even better in the new book. We should know that soon. They had the little preview article saying, hey, beast stuff is coming soon. Stay tuned. So I'm just this is like a future stonks. I'm just guessing this guy's going to be super good in the new book. Chaos Lord, you already mentioned him, right? The ability to pull things like Chosen in. Like, he's got an incredible unit on the backside. The Tyrant, by the way, can easily pull in something like Iron Guts or somebody like that who, doesn't have a huge footprint and yet will just wreck, right? Does
he get a bodyguard at all? I still haven't looked at Ogre's book. Okay.
He does. Yeah, that's another thought. Like, if they can also melee bodyguard, then that also becomes even more interesting, right? Yeah. As the Chaos Lord and Tyrant can. The Mega Boss on foot, because he can get broken out of the Strike Last effect.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right? Like, he can have some other unit of pigs or something like that in the army during the combat phase, break him out of hi Jackie, break him out of fight last through smashing and bashing, right? So seems pretty great. And obviously he could be pulling in like a bunch of brutes or something. It's perfectly fine slap.
Now appropriately priced brutes.
Yeah, sure.
Very exciting.
Absolutely. And then the Knight Zephyros, I couldn't find a picture with just the helm one. I know that's like with her mask off, it's the special character. Obviously, special unique characters do not qualify. I know that. I'm just talking about the generic Knight Zephyros, which is interesting to me because she can teleport. So it was just interesting to me that she could like partner up with the Stormcast unit, get them fighting, right? She makes a bunch of attacks, so like she could have some kind of reasonable buff in some way. And then just like zap away. Just go leave and be somewhere else. Teleport away in the movement phase afterwards. So she could like get her fighting done and then not have to worry about the only reason she does something is because she lands a 9-inch charge. Just thought it was fun. So those are my picks. What about you guys? You got any other picks?
Anything come to mind?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there are some traditional yes, I think I think that Knave is going to be the best Stormcast pick.
Yeah, generic Knave, yes.
Yeah, of course, generic. Yes,
Knight
Zephyros. The Knight Zephyros. But there have to be some other Stormcast heroes in there that I don't think that people are thinking about.
No, sure. I went through a bunch of them. Like, you already mentioned the Lord Castellant. It's a perfectly fine pick.
Yeah.
Sure.
There's one in particular, Tom. I'll just go and mention it if you want to.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I think the most popular pick that we'll see in Stormcast list this year will be Knight Azeros. That's for a couple of reasons. So the Azeros has been amazing at various times in this game. I know Vince, you and I are huge fans. Of that dude. So Azeros has a melee buff. pick an enemy unit, start a combat phase with, or end of charge phase, pick an enemy unit, end of charge phase, the 9 inches, +1 hit, any attacks, melee attacks against it for Stormcast. I think it's keyword Stormcast. Okay. 2-inch move, 5 wounds, 3-up save, very mobile, a great aspect of the champion piece, like Stubborn as a Rhinox, kind of 10 models. I've been using that a lot. But there's an artifact, so I've been going through the Stormcast book, Obsessed Stormcast, the last couple of weeks here, been looking at artifacts, etc., right? What might be some hot picks? Quicksilver Drought artifact. Quicksilver Drought allows you to write out a sequence. So you go into 15 Hearthguard Berserkers that would normally be fighting you first. You pop Quicksilver Drought from your Azeros, who's in the battalion, Galatian Command, as a Swarm Bodyguard, really meaty Swarm Bodyguard unit, right? Now you're fighting first with your Azeros and your Swarm Bodyguard because of that artifact. And he's got the mobility to deliver it. So anyway, I think that could be a popular pick.
100% with you. Options. Azeros is straight money.
Yeah, like I think some of that is like sure, and I think that I don't think that you're wrong, but I think that we may actually see some unlikely combos pop back in.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is I think that some of the mounted Stormcast heroes are all like 8 wounds.
Yeah, but they can't be mounted to be GCs.
Oh yeah. Sorry.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
No, it's fine. It's okay.
Yeah.
That's just it. Like I get it. It's a lot of a lot of things. And that's the problem, because you're right. A lot of them would be really cool, but nope. Yeah. I think the Azeros, I love the Azeros pick. I'm totally with you, because the Azeros pick is hot because it is one of these rare foot heroes that zips around at like a 12-inch move.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but he has to have people to pull in with him that can move like that, and you don't have a lot of that in Stormcast.
Yeah,
you gotta roll 9s. We talk about that all the time. Just roll 9s, Tom.
Or just roll 7s, because you drop them and pop them, and then you get in the fight, and then you whatever, stick it out.
Yeah.
I think the combo is more relevant. I was talking about it more as an aggro play, right? The example is more as a phalanx play, right?
Sure.
Or you've got your brick of protectors or whatever, right, that are protecting your shooting. Kind of may have to come into you. Yeah, it's more of that. Fewer objectives on the board.
And she can go. The Azeros could go over. She can take a point with it. We'll talk about what you're referencing, the count as 10 thing in a moment. She can hold that, but then pull back, jump back on with them, right, and then go or something like that. Sure,
yeah.
Absolutely.
And obviously, I think that stuff like Grimwrath Berserkers, for example, I think are going to be hot in this space. So.
Yeah, I really went back and forth on whether or not to include Grimwrath Berserkers. I saw a lot of people say, what about, people evolved their picks here, their pet units.
Yeah.
All the average melee heroes with average units are not anything to write home about, and they're not worth building into. It's just more good money after bad. Like the Executioner Ghost with some Night Haunt pulled behind him. Nope, trap. A Rune Father on foot with some Hearthguard Berserkers. First of all, they don't need that. They already have what they need to wreck most people. Again, it's a hat on a hat with them.
Right. But I mean, that's, maybe. Yeah.
They weren't dying to shooting anyways. They were already,
but Grimwrath were.
Sure. No, that's why I said.
No bodyguard there. Yeah.
100% agreed. There's a difference, right? That's why I'm saying the Grimwrath is one I went back and forth on a lot, because him, I actually found interesting. Him pulling in a unit, he actually is rather interesting and killy. Keep in mind his whole fight twice thing is only in the combat phase, so he doesn't get the extra one in the hero phase. Hey, it's an extra fight, I suppose.
Well, I mean, he could but he could get prayered, and he fights in the hero phase from the prayer.
Sure. Yes, absolutely. What ended up me keeping him off of this list was when he is really interesting is when he's in the combat phase swinging and then fights at the end, when he fights twice because he dies or something.
Yeah, right? Well, or he spikes, he pops his Magmalt and all this stuff and doubles his attacks, and
exactly that's what actually makes him killy when he's just
and he pops off on his rune, but I mean he's base -2 rend 2 damage.
Sure. He's fine. He's passable normally, right? I mean, look. None of these models, even the ones here, do any real damage.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
right? So like all these guys are average at best. Those guys are all below average. Like a Grimwrath just straight without any buffs is just like, it's fine. It's okay. He probably averages 2.3 damage or something in a turn.
No, I mean no, I disagree with that. Because he always piles in twice.
I'm talking about one fight. I'm talking about one fight. Because remember, in the hero phase, he gets one fight.
Sure.
That's what I'm talking about. One
and that's
swing.
Fine. Like, I'm talking about delivering him.
Yeah, go ahead.
And he's going to get into combat more reliably now than he ever did before. And sure. I think that's the key.
Again, I went back and forth. I ended up leaving him off, but I'd say sure. Like, yeah, okay. Yeah, cool. Like, I could see him being either on this list or a near miss to this list. Right?
Yeah.
So
I've got a couple for you. I'm curious to get your opinion on.
Here, hold on. Lord of Plagues, Lord of Blight. Nope. Straight out. Those guys do nothing. They do no damage. Like, they're not like, again, as far as getting them fighting, you're gaining nothing. And if you have 5 Blight Kings or something you pull in, that's not bad. It's hero phase disease. 10 Blight Kings, you're actually going to be really hard pressed to keep them in a tiny 6-inch bubble because of 10 40 mil bases. It's not impossible. They do fit. Okay. It's just like they're not going to all fight very easily in that 6-inch bubble. Like, that's another thing. How much of what the unit has can you deliver when you're holding them in a tiny 6-inch bubble around this one hero? So if you got a bunch of 40 mil dudes with 1-inch reaches, because they can't be in the fight in a half-inch of a half-inch battalion if they're in this battalion. Okay. I mean, then you're just not delivering a lot of power.
Vince, I think you're focusing on the hero phase piling utility, where you're talking about winning GCs. And for me, I think the not targetable is way more important.
Yeah, but that's just it. To me, that's just baseline. I don't need a battalion. I don't need anything. They just exist, and they're that.
Sure. But we're talking about what units, in my opinion, benefit the most. And that's where, like, I think you're hyper fixated on the combination with the battalion and the hero phase fight. And what I'm saying is that I actually think that some units, it's way more important for them to just get in the mix. And before they weren't even getting that opportunity.
Sure. And that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely. Like, then in that case, sure. Then the list is whatever, because who cares? It's just, isn't it neat that foot heroes can't get targeted anymore? Yeah, absolutely. Like, that's great. Things like Grimwraths and other heroes that might have gotten shot will just not. It's great. Right? And Curran, I know you're trying to rep this hard, but you're not fighting with all them Blight Kings. Not in that tiny bubble. It's just not happening.
Yeah.
Like, that's the issue. And so that's where I come to.
So the Nurgle point in writing a fair number of Nurgle lists, a value of 1 or 2 drop is still too strong in my view to bother with Glacian Command. Like,
right.
I want
which
to,
is the other
I think
concern.
a lot. Yeah, I think quite on drop count. I actually think the average drop count will go down this season.
Sure,
I think
absolutely.
a lot of the melee oriented armies are going to be even more oriented around lowest possible drops. And then there will be some shooting armies or armies with shooting elements that will choose sharpshooters. Yeah, the number of armies that will choose to increase their drops by 2 with Glacian Command, that will just be incidental. Like Stormcast, I'm 9 drops, and it's incidental that I have Glacian Command, because why not? I don't really care about being really low drop with Stormcast.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Okay, I understand you now, Curran. And yeah, that's fine. Sure, absolutely. When they have the half-inch within a half-inch, they get a lot better. Like, a lot better. So, sure, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's all fine. Like, there are many units that will just shrug that off and be like, I don't care about all your attacks. Like, you take those guys into an equal unit of protectors, and those protectors are going to just laugh that off. Like, they'll give them the laugh. You'll be lucky if you kill a protector. Now, the disease will do a great number on the protectors. That's actually the winning combo against them. But, like, you can, you got 70 attacks that are basically like rend 1, so they're still on 2 ups. And it's just like, okay, cool. Like, neat. That's Stop. Don't hurt me. Quit it. Stop. And then the protectors just smash, right? Like, so, whatever.
I know we can't spend an hour on this, but while it's on my mind, I do need to give a shout out to Warsong Revenant, which is kind of more reflective of, Tom, your broader lens on this at the moment.
Yeah.
I think the Warsong Revenant it was highly valuable in Sylvaneth list. It will now have a broader palette of play where it can function more in the mid-board, whereas previously it was largely that long range, that ability to sling spells through the trees that it was using for long range bombardment. Now you can have it midfield with Stubborn as a Rhinox, for example, maybe even surrounded by some Dryads to get crazy.
Hold on, because what effectively, Tom, you did is you jumped to my point for me. Okay.
Oh, great.
Which is fine.
Sure.
What I wanted to build here with this is if you try to use, I tried to build an argument for using the whole Buffalo, right?
Sure.
Like, let's imagine I'm wanting to play with all of the rules. Okay? Like, they wrote all these rules, so that's, like, shouldn't I want to use them? Right? Like, that should be the thing. Yeah? Like, they told me, here's this battalion you can take. Here's this thing you can do in the combat phase where you can chain fight. Here's these heroic actions to chain fight in the hero phase, right? So shouldn't I want to make the most use out of all of that? That's my first line of thinking here, right? And my point is to actually go to use all the parts of the Buffalo.
Yeah.
Okay? Very few armies can do it. And most of the time when you try, it's throwing good money after bad. And even when it's good, it's like average at best.
Yeah.
And it's probably diminishing your overall drop count. Your point is actually exactly correct, Tom. Okay, and that's where I was snaking us around to. The best GCs are actually just the same utility heroes that never use any of this crap you always had. And
you want them immune to shooting and don't want them in combat.
Correct.
So for example, the Stone Mage in Lumineth, he was already following around a battle line unit. Now he's following around a battle line unit and he's immune to shooting.
Right. Right. It's just a straight buff for all of them. Why would I throw good money after bad? We've just this is where I talked about that differential, right? Yeah. These are the best heroes, utility support guys. These are the second worst units, foot melee assassins. Why would I try to invest all of this effort into making this terrible role move up to average when I'm already basically for free taking like one of the best units in the game and making them better?
So I have an answer to that, which is because you may need to be concerned about achieving the Galatian Champ, the full palette. You may need to be considering the full palette of Galatian Champ battle tactics in your list building. Now, I don't think that's going to be the case.
I don't think that's the case at all, but okay.
Well, that's the problem.
Yeah.
That's part of the problem here.
I don't, and for most of the battle plans, it just matters that they exist.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm kind of curious how some of this, do we have any clarity on how some of this acts with like garrison rules and stuff like that?
What do you mean? Like if they're together in a garrison?
Yes, if they're together in a garrison. Because like I look at this and I think, yeah, KO is going to be hurting in some ways, but are just all KO foot heroes immune to shooting now?
Probably.
Because if they're in a boat, if they're in a boat with other infantry units, can they just not be targeted now?
I haven't heard anything, Tom. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Sounds like a great FAQ question, but I feel like the answer is probably.
Probably, which I don't know that matters for KO, right? Like in some sense, but like they were already heavily disincentivized to shoot with -1 to hit, +1 to save, yada yada yada. But it's just fascinating that like, I think that there's some downstream repercussions that I don't think that people have fully.
Hey, everybody, all the little skinkerdoos pile in that temple, baby.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, this is where I'm going, right?
Yeah.
The best heroes for Galatian champions are the same exact heroes
Yeah.
that were already the good heroes you're taking. There is no effect or change in this season where suddenly your melee foot heroes you wanted to play are suddenly going to become real good. That's not what's happening. I want to disabuse everybody of that notion. That's why I went through this whole journey, right? Because in your best case scenario, the heroic actions are bad and hard to use. Okay? The combat phase chain activations, a lot of armies can already do anyways. Okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
And the real power is in just be immune to shooting. That's it.
Yeah. So I would disagree. Again, if we're not using faction battle tactics, but we will. Therefore, I'm aligned with you. Going back to the initial view that I expressed, GCs will be moderately relevant because of the battle plans.
Sure. Oh, I think GCs will be relevant as a cast. Yes, I think they will be relevant. Absolutely.
Right.
I just think all this extra subs, like they laid down a foundation, Galatian champions, right? And then they built this whole house on top of it, and it's a house of cards. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. More aligned with that than not. There are exceptions, and yeah, if you had certain conditions, those exceptions become stronger. But yes, generally aligned.
Yep. That's where I'm going with all this, right? So, okay. All right. So with that, let's lay some more groundwork. Magic and command abilities. We got a new realm spell for wizards and new command abilities. These are actually kind of interesting. They're like, okay, it's certainly better than the command ability of last season, so that's nice.
Yeah.
Grinding Teeth of Galay, CV6, range 12. If successful, pick one objective within range. Roll a dice for each unit within 6 inches of that objective. On a 4+, that unit suffers D6 mortal wounds. Okay. Now we're talking with some real damage. I love seeing D6 mortal wounds on a spell.
So to ask the question that's been going around, how do you determine visibility on a two-dimensional objective? Yeah.
If a model's standing on it, can you not see it anymore? Yeah, exactly. Sure.
Right, exactly. Yeah. You got
good FAQ question. I would assume the answer will be, come on, you know.
Yeah. Come on. Stop.
But sure. Like, cool spell. So that's fine. Neat.
Yeah. It'll be a lot of fun on Battle Lines Drawn. One of our battle plans.
Oh sure, yeah, no joke. Who boy?
A quarter of the battlefield. Yeah.
Who boy? Now, one important note, that is each unit within 6 of that objective.
Yeah, it hits your own guys.
You hit your own people as well. Mm-hmm. So important to note there.
Oh.
Okay.
Is it like this? Do you like? What do you think?
Yeah, it's cool. Still too short range to actually be really useful. If it was 18 inches, it would be like people would cast it a lot. But at 12 inches, it's like, it's okay.
Is this a secret buff to Slanesh? That's what I want to know.
Just wound a bunch of your own people. Just pick your own objective and just be like, blow, and just cause a bunch of depravity on your own army.
I thought of that. That's interesting.
Maybe.
Sure. Sure. Look. You can't kill me. I'll kill me.
Like it's like I don't like when I saw that. The first thing I thought was, so what do I gain by wounding my own people? And like that's one of the first places I jumped to. But it's interesting because of the way that they've worded this. There may actually be some real weird corner case stuff that they did not intend.
Yeah, there's obvious connotations. Like 12 inches is relatively short. Anytime you have a relatively short spell range, then immediately you start talking about spell portal and stuff like that, and or the mobile wizards, that your wizard hero monsters who like are tough enough to be actually casting spells in combat and can like be fighting over here and then just point at that other objective and be like blow, you know, and it's something like that. Like
I'd have a hard time thinking of an army. You probably agree with this, Vince, of an army that's taking spell portal because of this spell, right? They're taking spell portal because of another spell.
No, I hear that, but. Like, let me push back on that and say a lot of scenarios, like oftentimes one of the things that happen is that people bunker around objectives.
Sure.
So you can, if you have an alpha caster, right, you can drop a D6 mortal wounds on their army.
Fair. Yeah.
I mean,
I mean,
is
we
that-
know
is
the
that
value
bad?
of the value of Runapatch faction, which is kind of like this.
Right.
It's
But what
two
about
4-ups.
this and all of those other things?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean,
like that, like the key is going to be, this is going to be a tool in a select toolbox of alpha casting.
sure. Yeah, I agree with like Nick Garcia, Warsong Bomb just got stronger, right? All that kind of stuff. I mean, it is still on a 4+, which means 50-50, but D6 mortal wounds is also a lot. But then there will be times you cast a spell and it's like, no, yes, 1 mortal wound, no, yes, 2 mortal wounds, spell done. Right? And
One,
it's like,
Yeah, Nick, that's a great point.
4+, 6 mortals.
yeah. That being
Pick out
said,
your hero.
sure, I'm sure that there will be a slight bump in the percentage usage of Spell Portal, at least at the beginning, for people to try this out.
Mm-hmm.
Right, like my guess is you would see like a X percentage buff in Spell Portal usage, and certainly some Sylvaneth casters and people like that will take this and things like that. Okay. Seraphon and that kind of crap.
Yeah.
Command ability, no retreat, no surrender. Yeah. Great action movie there. Start of the combat phase. The unit that receives cannot be a hero or monster or have charged and is within 3 inches of an enemy unit. Okay. So this is a start of the combat phase command ability, so it's competing with the 2 best command abilities in the game. And it's also getting shut off by Roar. So just important things I want to note here about the consequences of that. So the unit that receives it can't be a hero, can't be a monster, or have charged, and has to be within range of an enemy unit. So they have to have already gotten there somehow last turn. Right?
Yep.
Okay. That unit cannot make a pile-in move, but adds +1 attack to melee weapons, not mounts, until end of the phase. Okay. Cool. +1 attack's pretty good buff. Like, it's for a very particular type of unit. Again, your aforementioned Chosen, or the Blight Kings, or the things like that. If you feel that that's more relevant than +1 to hit, depending on exactly what you're doing there. If you've got any kind of foot unit that happens to have multiple melee profiles, cool. That's going to be a big winner for you there. But, again, you have to have survived into this point in time somehow and go from there. So
I could pair potentially with the Galatian Veterans Battalion, allowing you to fight in 2 ranks. Get more leverage out of this. I mean, because otherwise there's not that many units that would be fitting for this that have a 3-inch reach. I mean, obviously we've mentioned protectors a lot. Protectors could leverage this. I mean, Star Souls need to be in position with 1 inch on Star Souls. But yeah, I suspect this will be another one that you may not see as much as meets the eye just reading it. Like reading it, it feels pretty good to me. But I don't think we're going to see this a whole lot. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. This one feels a little better to me. I like, certainly, I mean, this is miles better than the command ability from last season. Let's just talk about that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, like,
Totally.
good night. I think it's like a pretty good buff that if you have the command points, like if you're an army that generally has the command points to run 3 command abilities in the combat phase and you tend to fight with 3 units, sure.
Yep.
Right? Like, I all out attack these guys, I all out defense these guys, I no retreat, no surrender these guys who are already in combat, right? Or whatever. Who got charged. Like it's interesting because it's sort of the most valuable off turn in most cases. Like in the enemy turn is when it has the most value. Like they charge you. And I agree with Gareth. It says it sort of can influence their fight order, right? Or their fight priority, as it were.
Yeah.
So I think this one's probably a 6 out of 10 for me.
Okay.
Right? Like I think it is good. I don't think it's great. I think it will get used as long as you have the units that can make great use of it. And I think there is a strong potential that we will see those units on the battlefield in this season.
Yeah.
Right?
I've got one unit in mind that could highly leverage this, but which is, what are they called? The Swordmasters for Lumineth.
Sure.
Have 1 attack that does a mortal wound on a 2-up. It's a if I'm not mistaken, Tom, it's a melee profile. You take that to 2 attacks, put them in galley vets, and that could be up to 22 up mortal wounds from a unit of 10.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think of like I'm always excited when I hear +1 attack on something like Storm Vermin, who already have some +1 attack, and who actually, without bounty hunters being around, might see some play. They're one of the most damaging units in the game. And you know, and the whole unit basically fights all the time because they always have ridiculous reach, right? They're 3-inch reach on a 25 mil base, so as a unit, so suddenly going to 4 or 5 attacks out of those guys is pretty good.
Yeah.
So
it is.
But I mean, does it seem fair that this really comes into play with galley vets battalion to properly, in most instances, take advantage of this?
You're saying like to actually get the full use out of it, so you can actually fight with everybody?
Yeah, like Hearthguard Berserkers are on my head. Tom, are they a 2-inch reach on the pole axis? Do you know? Offhand?
That's a great question. I think they are.
Okay, well, I'll look it up. But
I'd
I'm just trying to think of some more units that could actually leverage this, and to what degree do those units really need to be in galley vets battalion?
Yes, they have a 2-inch reach.
Okay,
Yeah.
so maybe so they would be able to swing over the top. Yeah, if the opponent is pretty close.
Yeah, I mean,
in galley vets.
That's just it. That's why I'm thinking about units that don't have to worry about that, right? Like you mentioned, protectors, they've got the reach as long as as you said, the star souls are in the right place and so on and so forth. Just move your unit correctly. Things like Storm Vermin, that kind of stuff. But sure, I mean, if that's where I think you make the most hay of this, because then I can still be 1-dropping it all day and maxing and relaxing on this command ability, right? I didn't have to influence anything to do it. No cost, all Benny, right? So
the Blade Lords, Venari Blade Lords, 2-inch reach. They're great blades, perfect strike. So potentially a unit of 10 that could be 20 dice, 2 up mortal wounds.
Stabby stab.
That's pretty damn good.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah.
It's a good point, Warpstone. The other buff, the other +1 attack is also a combat phase command ability, so they couldn't get both. That's absolutely correct, and I forgot that was the case. Too many combat phase things. Yeah. All right. Thank you, Warpstone. You're absolutely right. So wooden stack. Boo. So there we go. And yeah, the Warbringer buff is superior. Okay, let's talk about these core battalions. We've got 3 new core battalions: Galatian Command, Sharpshooters, and Veterans. All right. I'm just going to ask the question right out of the gate. Here we go. Okay? Here's the starting question. How much do these draw you away from the 1-drop? We've talked about the 1-drop, the challenges with it many times. It's such a powerful incentive because it lets you set the tempo of the game. It's quite attractive for many armies, not every. You know, Nighthaunt doesn't care, Skaven don't care. There are plenty of armies that can be like, yeah, well, I'm 52,000 drops. Who cares? Right? Those exist. But for a lot of armies, I agree, Chase. I was just getting confused. I'm not saying too many combat phase things is a bad thing. I'm just saying it just forgot. How much do these draw you away from the 1-drop on average?
Who's going to start?
I think about my guess is we're going to end up seeing about a half and half split.
Okay.
Where I think that some armies are just going to tend towards diving into these things. And I think that some armies are definitely not. I think some armies are just going to go for the 1-drop. Not unlike what we've seen before. I think in general, what you're going to see is you're going to see a much more stark difference. Where I think the spread is going to go from like 1-drop to like 6 drops, rather than 1 to 4. Sure. We had like a middling range before of 1 to 3 as our low end. I think it's going to be a pretty hard 1. Okay. And then the spread will jump out because they will dip into 1 or 2 of these. battalions, or all of them, right, and be 12 drop.
Okay. Tyler?
So,
yeah, I like the point about the one drop end of things. Yeah, becoming even more pronounced. So I was just thinking about shooting armies, right? Ideneth, Skaven, Seraphons, Stormcast, Sylvaneth, KO, Zinch, Lumineth, Doc, Cities, Ogres, Cruel Boys. Okay, so Seraphon, if it been high drop, they could leverage this and still be high drop. I think Stormcast will leverage, maybe key in on sharpshooters. Stormcast, I think a number of lists will put long strikes, etc., into sharpshooters. The benefits too significant, I think, to how Stormcast plays.
Mm-hmm.
KO would have to seemingly change some of their list structure from what I've seen. Tom, you'd be better to speak to this. Maybe Sky Wardens, Engine Riggers coming back, especially in sharpshooters. But KO was pretty low drop, weren't they?
Yeah, I mean, in general, KO has been fairly low drop. They don't really benefit a lot from this because sharpshooters, your infantry aren't your shooters. Your
shooters, right.
So, like, I don't know that they have. I don't like.
Your could boats probably do a lot of the heavy lifting, is what you're saying.
They do. You could maybe do Thunderers. You could do Thunderers in sharpshooters, and maybe get some more out of a unit like that. I've ran heavy riggers and wardens before, but the problem is that they're a trap as a unit, just in general, because they're still like their raw numbers haven't changed, and that's the problem. Is that they're still a 3-man unit. They reinforced to 6.
Okay,
that's not a worthwhile buffing. Like, you're not going to buff that unit. That's a non-starter.
Okay.
So
Skaven, as far as I remember, pretty high drop. I mean, a lot of their
super
pieces
high drop. Like,
are,
sure, of course, I'll throw some stuff in sharpshooters. Like, why not? Sure, why not?
Although a lot of their best stuff doesn't fit. Storm Fiends, Warp Lightning Cannons, Giselles. So it's kind of interesting, but they do have other things that I could throw in there.
Incorrect choice. It is Ninja Rats all the way down, homie. Mortal wounds, rip, zip, zap, die, hero. That is all that is going in that battalion. It is 3 units of Ninja Rats who airdrop in and then go zip and kill your Galatian champions, and then be like, well, we did it, boys. Mission accomplished. We have assassinated the enemy. And depending on if we're using that very bad battle plan, we win now.
Got the name Jacob Brendan in my head, who ran Skaven with a bunch of Ninja Rats that did really well recently. Really good player. Lumineth, I think, will continue to, certainly techless builds will probably still go 1-drop. I don't know that they're going to take sharpshooters, just given the significance of 1-drop to them, getting their buffs up, dictating the early pace. We've got Ideneth. That's another one that maybe they'll put Reavers. Daughters of Cain. I'm really interested in Daughters of Cain. They have been very low drop, right? 1 or 2 drops with Daughters of Cain competitive list. 15 bow snakes. Are they going to go up to 4-drop? That's meaningful. An army of hammers and screens, which then they always want to give away that turn 1. If you are 4-drop, you're potentially gonna have to be very good at screening and keeping those bow snakes alive. Anyhow, it's kind of interesting going through it.
Here's my thoughts, for whatever it's worth. I think the only one of these things that would ever make me pause for a moment over going Bat Reg would be Galatian sharpshooters. Like, if that's the choice, if it's literally A against B, okay. I don't think Galatian Command and Galatian Veterans are actually worth much. All right. Like, I just don't. In general, across the board. I think the real answer is if you, like, some people will take all of these, specifically sharpshooters and veterans, if you're already in an army where you happen to be building like that and just have extra slots.
Sure.
Right? Like, if you're already naturally not using Bat Reg because you're using Warlord or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Then sure, like, just put your shooting units in Galatian sharpshooters. Why wouldn't you? Right? Like, Warlord is super easy to fulfill, and you got what you needed out of it. You got your bonus artifact or whatever you were aiming at, right? Your bonus enhancement. Okay. But so in other words, and if you have, there's a lot of armies who even sharpshooters, like they're not going to give it a second look because they just don't have any shooters worth putting in here.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would say at least half the armies in the game don't have any shooters worth putting in that battalion.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, so I've got 12 shooting-oriented armies here, and Tzeentch is on a technicality because it's ranged magic. It's not, quote-unquote shooting.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Now, Gareth has pointed out that what I'm saying sounds strange because I've spent the last 6 months talking about how much I love Bonds of Battle. And yet here I am trashing Galatian Veterans as being basically not worth it. Okay? For, again, on average across all armies. Like, there are certain armies where it becomes extremely worth it because then all of the infantry you'd want to be fighting with is this type of infantry. Okay? Oh. And so you're just like, you were already screwed. Right? So this is the only way you unscrew yourself. That's why I hate it. Okay? I don't like the implementation of this as a battalion as opposed to just a rule they can get. So what we're saying here is some armies who just by complete happenstance, right? Because it's not like there's any thought put into this, right?
Yeah.
Some armies just happen to have dudes on 40-inch, that's very big, on 40 mil bases with 1-inch reaches. Right? And that's like the main guys they want to be fighting. And they would like to take them in units of 6 or something. Right? And so if they want those units to actually be worth the points as written, they just have to take this thing as opposed to any other thing that they could do. Like, sorry, you just don't get to be 1-drop if you want your quality of life in your army not to be terrible. That's pretty... I don't like that. I don't like this as a battalion. That's the simple answer. This should just be the rule.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it turned me off on the idea of 10 Black Kings, which otherwise is an attractive concept, because it necessitates going to, at most, or at minimum, a 3-drop. Just not ideal.
Agreed.
With Nurgle, so...
Yeah, and so, I mean, that's my main challenge with it. Now, I do still think it'll get taken. I do still think there are some armies where it'll be valuable. I'm not saying it's not valuable. I just hate that they have this weird extra cost hidden in there. That's what I don't like. So please hear the nuance in my voice on this. Okay. And so, like, in most armies, you're not looking at Galatian Veterans and being like, oh, that seems like I'm getting a super cool ability. You're not. You're getting fight like all other normal units in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're getting brought back to normal because of the bad coherency rules. That's it. That's not an attractive thing. Right?
Sure.
So, I mean, honestly, Hades, I'd rather just everybody be 1-drop and then we roll off. Then we're actually just rolling for first turn. I don't like that some armies just get to have to pay this tax. It's not, I don't find that argument compelling. Now, sharpshooters, sure, if you've got straight shooters, take it. Right? Like, if you've got straight shooters and you can afford the drops, like if you have the chaff to protect, that you can protect against the alpha, right? Then, sure, especially depending on what battle plans get used, which is my final point on this slide. We're going to talk about battle plans here in a few minutes, and depending on the battle plans that get used, the value of this could skyrocket. And by the way, if you've got good shooters, hey, congratulations on your wins in those battle plans.
Yeah.
Like, I'm excited about your extra victories. Again, it's not automatic. Nothing ever is. Blah, 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 blah. But congratulations on being 70-30 favorite in the match. Okay. And honestly, Galatian Command, I find the least compelling thing on here. I don't care.
Yeah. Pretty hard to agree on that.
Hence, the heroic actions are also worthless.
Yeah.
So now we've come all the way back around, and that's the whole thing. Like, if this is bad, which I think it is, because all the good units who I'd want to have this already just do this now in their book, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And also probably bodyguard and get a ward, right? And so I just like, why? What is this? This is just 2 extra. This is nothing. This is a nothing burger.
Yeah. Tom Nighthaunt, you're putting Bladegeist in Nation Veterans, right? You're not worrying about extremely low drop.
Probably. Okay. I think that they're probably. I mean, you'd be able to fit enough in there. That's fine. I don't know what melee hero that what GC that you would want to mix them up with. I don't know that.
Not Galatian Command, but the Bonds of Battle fighting in 2 ranks, Galatian Veterans.
I understand that. That's what I'm saying. Like, what I'm saying is yes, because I don't know what would go into Galatian Command. What hero would go with them. That's the problem, is that, like, there's not really a hero, and why would you do that, like, when realistically, if you want a fight with hero, the right answer is to grab the mounted Knight of Shrouds, who's going to pull them into combat anyways.
Or the unique characters who slap or whatever, who are just like go in and do a bunch of damage on their own and just like call it a day because you just roll enough charges to make them fight last anyways. And it's like, yeah, we all get to go first anyways, guys.
Right. Like, so, like, I think that Nighthaunt are probably in a unique spot, unlike a lot of other armies, as they have been, right? Like, they weren't playing the bonus damage game because of the way that what's his face was reducing damage, and so like they've been playing kind of their own game this entire time, and I think that's going to continue into this next GHB.
I'm gonna start off and think of some other examples. So, Storm Vermin, are they 32 mils, Vince? Are 25. They 1 inch reach?
25, and they're going to be 3 inch reach all the time.
And as an aside,
yeah.
As much as you were talking about getting Bladegeist in, I'm much more likely to put just a metric crap ton of chain rafts in a Galatian Veterans battalion.
Yeah.
So, like, because, go ahead.
I was saying, reaching that fighting within, like those ranks, way more important, right? For a unit like that.
The first thing that had me excited about this when I read Galatian Command doesn't actually even work. Because when I first read this, I was super excited about Skaven. Like, I love Skaven in this current edition. It's a 2.75 book. It's not a 3.0 book, but it's still fun. And I really enjoy playing the army. Like, I've had a great amount of fun with it over the past couple months. And I thought to myself, neat, I'll take, some foot hero. We have lots of easy Galatian champions in Skaven. No problem, right?
Sure.
And we have Scurry Away, where when we activate, instead of fighting, we can retreat and just leave. Just piss off, right? Mm-hmm. The problem with that is you're normally burning an activation for not fighting, right? And I thought,
right,
I can get around that, right? I'll activate my little Galatian champion, he'll run away, and then the unit will get to fight. And then I actually read the words. And I realized that didn't work. Because if you read the card, it explains the card. And so, in the combat phase, when you fight, stop right there. I didn't.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because instead of fighting, I ran away. I made a normal move away. Right? So I can't even trigger the thing on the way that would be actually fun and interesting to do. Yeah. So, again, I don't see the use for this in most cases, is the argument. To me, Sharpshooter's the one that, like, you'll probably see the most, and even then, only, like, 8 or 9 armies are actually poised to take advantage of Sharpshooters in any meaningful way.
Sure. I'm a little surprised, yeah. I mean, I'm coming around on this few events with Galley Vets. In my mind, I just assumed that there would be more factions that would leverage it. But I'm thinking of like Namarni Thralls for 2 inch reach, which helps with their 32 mils. So Are you doing it with them, which is going to increase your drop count? I don't know. Yeah, like I'm having a hard time thinking of many factions that would be enticed by the Nighthaunt is the obvious one in my mind.
Coach Coco mentioned Korn, which I could see because they got a lot of 32s. But again, they got a book on the horizon, so who knows what their new book looks like? If they get updated to properly have a bunch of, proper reach on things, then okay. Right. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe Stone Guard, and Lumineth. Obviously, Wardens don't care. Anyway, but Lumineth generally want to be low drop. So yeah, that's interesting. I'm a little surprised. Yeah, that this might be the case.
Yep. Assistant Ref, I like the way you put that. A lot of these rules, not just battalions, seem like stuff that's just a bonus for what you were already doing, but not a reason to change what you're doing fundamentally. Yep. Okay. Well, we got some new stuff to discuss, artifacts and enhancements. We'll go through these quickly because I want to keep moving. My goodness, we've spent a lot of time on this, but that's all right. We're gonna keep this tight. Here, we're gonna starting now. I don't know. Here we go.
Keep lying to yourself. It's fine.
Shut your face. All right. So, okay. Let's talk about the artifacts. Tuskhelm, when charging, roll dice equal to the unmodified charge. Each 4 plus a mortal wound. You get good ogre charge. That's what it is. But it's not cumulative with other charge abilities, which is like really obscurely worded.
From that unit.
Yes, from that unit. Correct. What an interestingly obscurely worded thing. Other charge abilities or whatever. Sounds fun. I can't wait to see what the FAQ questions that pile in over that.
Yeah. You guys rate this one much?
It's fine. Mortal wounds on a charge are good. It's not a bad thing.
I think we've got obviously opportunities for combo damage, combo charge, impact plays with multiple units. Like thinking about a Storm Strike Chariot, pulling in with a Galley Champ with this, Azeros as a potential go-to with a 12-inch move. That could be a nice potential little power pair. Azeros and a Chariot, double combo damage.
Okay, let's ask the important question, right? Is this ever your first artifact?
No.
Okay. Cool. Cool. I mean, right? That says a lot. Yeah? How often is it your second artifact?
Oh, let's see. Probably.
To be clear, by the way, this rarely. When I say other charge abilities, the exact wording is if the bearer already has an ability with an effect that triggers after they make a charge move, you must pick which effect applies. You cannot use both. So it's not just like not cumulative with other, I roll a bunch of dice on the charge. It's not cumulative with like on a 2-up you do D3 mortals, on a charge you do this or that or the other thing. None of it. You get no other effects that trigger on your charge. You only do this. Right?
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to think long and hard about it, but maybe like I'd have to find a corner case where I have just an ass ton of bonuses to charge, where you're at like +6 to charge.
I mean, still the unmodified charge roll is what you're rolling.
Yeah, you're right. Never mind. Yeah, it is unmodified. Yeah, so
but yeah, you're looking at something like 3d6 buffs that are 3D, like
drop below.
Like a War Chanter is what I was thinking about the other day. With this, War Chanter buffs itself goes in 3d6. Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. You put the Tuskhelm on a Nighthaunt hero. Okay. They charge. What happens when a Nighthaunt hero charges normally?
You get your debuff.
You get your we're spooky debuff, right?
Yeah.
Or you get the Tuskhelm. You don't get both.
Correct.
Because it's an effect that triggers on the charge.
Yep.
Interesting.
Bad.
So, no Nighthaunt players ever taken this because no thanks. I'll roll on the slot machine of you fight last or get neg 1 to save. Thank you very much. Yeah. Okay. Right, and that's just it. Like the number of people who you actually want to give this thing to, it's not huge.
Yeah,
it's not huge.
Think of some other examples of 3d6. So Kragnos.
By the way, again, these artifacts are only for Galatian champions. I just want to make that super clear. So we are talking about the foot utility heroes, who are the ones we all decided and agreed are the ones we're actually using. Ain't charging.
Yeah, this is a subcategory of a subcategory of a subcategory. Right.
Right. So,
Nope.
Okay. Yeah, so like these have to cross such a high bar to be good.
Yeah, look and see if you got access to a 3d6. Like that would be, or a really good power pair, like a really good power pair.
Sure.
That can combo damage, impact hits. But I do think there are some things that can deliver 3d6. That's kind of interesting.
Sure. It's fine. That makes it fine.
Fine.
Exactly. The Night Flyer Cloak, you can keep the unit in reserve and set them up, 9 inches away from the enemies, but they have to be within 1 inch of a friendly battle line. Cool. If anybody takes any of them, this would be the one. Just because like it will allow you to set up a utility hero where you actually need them to be.
Mm-hmm.
That would be the bonus of it, right? Again, we all agreed the utility heroes are the best ones. They're the best Galatian champs. So, and sometimes they're slow, but hey, if I can just like drop them into position where they can be buffing the unit I need to buff and they don't normally have an ambush ability, great. Fantastic.
Yeah.
But again, situational at best. And the Griff Feather Charm. Hey, welcome back, buddy. We missed you. Mr. 5-Up Ward, you're back again. It's okay if you're on a small hero that's already immune to shooting. So, good stuff, I guess. I've never looked at 5-Up Ward with less, like, I've never seen a 5-Up Ward be less attractive.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I doubt it'll see a whole lot of play. Yeah. The Night Flyer Cloak, of course, it triggers the core rules, so you still have to be on the board by round 3.
Of course.
I keep you in reserve.
Sure.
So.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Well, because the problem with the 5-Up Ward artifact was just when it was on big giant monster heroes. That was it. That was the whole point we made in the show, right? Like, 5-Up Wards don't work on big monster heroes who are already super tough, right? But they are fine on a stupid, worthless foot hero who basically does nothing.
Yep.
That's it.
I'd be surprised that many people are spending an artifact slot. Yeah, to put this even on a, like Tom and Injured Master dirigible suit with what 9 wounds, 8 wounds. Is this attractive at all?
No, because no.
No, you're just gonna take other things in the army. That's the problem. It's like KO get extra artifacts, and it's probably not even making your 3rd or 4th.
No, because like I could go infinite, mortal wound bombs on him.
Sure.
Why would I do this?
Yeah, drop them bombs. Yeah, I agree, Emily. That's likely the issue. I think it probably does need to. All right. Unique enhancements. Galatian champions only. You get 1 free. You get no duplicates. You can select additional. You can spend your enhancements on this. Okay. So that's what these are. This is a new unique thing. Everybody gets them. Cool beans. You get 1. Everybody gets 1. First one's free. Tunnel Master. Once a game, instead of making a normal move, you can teleport to 9 inches away. Effectively. I'm shortening these down. But that's the gist of it. Fueled by girlish rage. That doesn't sound right. Did anybody say that out loud before they typed it? Girlish rage. Okay. Anyways, once a game, before you allocate a wound that would kill that unit, roll a die on a 3+, ignore that wound, heal D3, and ignore the remaining allocated wounds. Hard pass. Stubborn as a Rhinox, the Galatian champion counts as 10 models for contesting as long as no enemy GC are on the objective. Certainly the choice. That is the soup du jour right there. Oh, Gurish. Gurish. There's no L.
I was looking it up. Yeah.
It's your fault, Vince.
It is my fault. I'm sorry, everybody. Gurish. Okay. It's just my fault then. Uh-oh. Maybe we're dealing with some Freudian issues here. I don't know. All right. I mean, that Stubborn as a Rhinox is great. It's super strong. And then Leadership of the Alpha. Once per game, the GC can use Rally, all at attack, all at defense, or redeploy 3 times for 1 CP. Also a strong choice. I like these. These are fun.
Big fan.
I think everything except the Gurish Rage one, which I was mispronouncing. Sorry, everybody. I could see it being the choice. Like, triple redeploy or triple all out or whatever. Triple rally.
Yeah.
Very potent.
That's fine.
Tunnel Master is very potent in certain armies. Like, yeah. I think all three of these will see some play and are interesting and useful in various armies.
Yeah.
So.
Agreed.
Yeah, like, we got one. This is good. You got 3 out of the 4. I think 3 out of the 4 are useful and interesting, even on the heroes that we have to put these on. Taking a random worthless foot melee hero or utility guy and making him count as 10 models on an objective, that's a huge deal. It's a huge deal. Right? Tunnel Master, same thing. Just being able to, like, suddenly take a dude and have him, teleport around where he can be much more valuable for battle tactics, huge deal. Right? And then Leadership of the Alpha, I don't think I need to explain at this point why being able to triple issue command points is super strong. So okay. So all good. Good job, guys. I think you nailed it with this one. I really like these. I think these are fun. I think these do open up play styles. They open up play avenues, and they make the heroes more valuable and important pieces in the game. They hit all of my boxes. They are a straight win. A+. Love them. Great stuff. Okay. So we built like a really nice chimney on the side of that house of cards, but it is a glorious looking chimney.
It's a nice chimney.
It's really nice. Yeah, great brickwork. And brickwork isn't easy. That's a very like you journeyman and apprentice into brickwork. It's not something you just do. Okay. Cool. Grand strategies. Tyler, what do you think about the grand strategies? Okay. So obviously we got 3 old, 3 new. I didn't color code these. I should have. I color coded the battle tactics. But take us through what you think about these.
Still a bit of a mess. Yeah, particularly given the fact that we have Take What's Theirs, the overwhelmingly most used choice over the last 6 months, which will still be the case unless you're leaning into a faction grand strategy. There is, let's see, if your general, contesting objective, have 3. Survivor's Instinct, if your general is a Galatian champ, have them contest an objective outside of your territory at the end of the game. I could potentially pair with Tunnel Master, where if you're confident that you can keep your Tunnel Master GC safe until the end of the game, and then go test an objective outside of your territory. Maybe, if you're really desperate, you might look at that one. The day is ours. Have more galley champs alive from your starting army than your opponent at the end of the game.
Never.
If you're Lumineth and you're planning to shoot the world, you're in sharpshooters.
It's always just so risky, though. Like, it's a super high. The day is ours. Any of those have more of X alive than your opponent has at the end. Always ends up super risky.
Yeah. Like, I think about things like Stake a Claim are really enticing with armies that are going to be running 6-foot heroes. Like, I think about like Night Haunt. I have a bunch of mobile foot heroes, right? And so, like, Stake a Claim is enticing.
Sure. Yeah, for me, I look at him and say, Take What's Theirs is still probably the top choice, but Survivor's Instinct is honestly interesting, especially if you have an army where you have a relatively survivable GC general because of things that you can do to keep them alive. Like, my Relictor in my Stormcast basically never died. Right? That dude never died. He's always alive at the end of the game. Right? I can just layer on that guy, and he's got even more layers now. Right?
Yep.
And Skaven would be another great example, right? Where it could be a hero who's very tough and behind the lines and is, tough himself, like an Arch Warlock or something, who can also just be like skitter leaped around. Right? So he can just be teleported around, or, null hold and skitter leaped and yada, 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 right? Like the options are multitudinous, as it were, right?
Yeah.
So, like, to me, if you've got that kind of a general where you tend to have that dude who just lives and is around and isn't generally threatened and will be threatened even less in the current world, Survivor's Instinct's a perfectly fine bet, because then you can easily shelter him back, castle him up, and then run him out, late turn 4 into 5 and just get it.
Yeah.
So like, it'll be those 2 I think everybody takes.
Yeah, I generally agree.
Yep. But I do agree with Kyle that kill my boss dudes is a clear target to paint for your opponent. Yeah, I mean it. Like when you if you write down Survivor's Instinct, it's like, okay, well, cool. Now a little thing pops up on your enemy's HUD that says new objective added. Right. New mission objective. Rob them of their 3 points. It definitely has counterplay, but it is still very achievable.
Yeah, and the day is ours. I mean, Night Haunt is one of the obvious problems, and Night Haunt are going to be, I think, certainly people want to win. Night Haunt are going to be quite popular this season. Like, welcome to 9 Spirit Host and 4 Galley Champs that are not dying.
Sure.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely. All right. Battle tactics. I think the grand strat discussion is the sort of least interesting version one because whatever. Let's talk battle tactics. There are 4 that are repeated are highlighted. So the 4 we kept are gaining momentum. Fine. Achievable. Right? Like I often did gaining momentum during games. No problem. An eye for an eye. Again, great. Nice one. I like eye for an eye. I like that it's not a turn 1 go first doable thing. Like you literally cannot do it if you have first turn and so on and so forth. But it's always interesting because it's sort of untargeted, so that's fine.
Yeah.
Desecrate their lands. Super easy slam dunkathon 2023 remains. That one is always just like a gimme. And then this one's mine. A very specific thing that is very ironic to keep in the grand strats we just talked about, because most of the time, if your general is a guy who can complete Survivor's Instinct, he is not a guy who can complete this one's mine.
Sure.
No.
Those 2 are not completely mutually exclusive, but there is a very small cohort of overlap on that particular little Venn diagram.
Yeah.
Okay. So this one's mine was pretty rarely chosen. A lot of armies don't have generals that were capable of completing it.
Yeah, there's not a lot of like a killing kings running around that, can get in the right position, can deliver the impact to reliably get the job done, right? So yeah, it was pretty rare in my experience.
So what are our new ones? A Matter of Honor. Pick one enemy Galatian champion or sworn bodyguard unit on the battlefield. You complete this battle tactic if that unit is destroyed during this turn by an attack made by a friendly Galatian champion or sworn bodyguard unit. Cool. Never picking that.
No.
Like, never. My utility heroes will not be trying to get that one. Now, this goes back to your argument, Tyler.
Yeah.
Right? Like, if we had banned book battle tactics, right? If that was the thing, if there were no book battle tactics, and so this had to be like, and you were having to find your 5 from this list,
yeah,
suddenly those melee foot heroes you'd be a lot more incentivized to pick them. But it's just not the world we live in.
Yeah,
right. Could be
if people are brave enough to make it happen. All right, because this is really hard.
Yeah.
I'll say this is really hard, even if you do like. Other than the super killy guys we mentioned, right, and their pet unit friends, it's still really hard. Like, you have to build completely into this, playing everything in the new season to get this one battle tactic.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Yes. I was going to say, I've had a couple of games where this has come into play more accidentally rather than deliberately engineering it, where I've had protectors in position to kill a galley champ. And the reason they were in position because they were a sworn bodyguard. They were in the Galatian command. Now, if you are struggling to figure out, in particular, your 5th battle tactic, then this might be one that impacts your list building. But that goes back to the issue. If you're using faction battle tactics, I think most armies are going to be looking at least one from their book to complement 4 from this list, or more, from their book. So yeah.
Sure, Doc only have to find 2 on this list. Easy money, baby. Easy money. Eye for an eye and desecrate sounds good. Let's do it. What do you mean new battle tactics? Never heard of them. New phone. Who dis?
Yeah.
Okay. Lead the assault. You complete this battle tactic if at least 2 of the objectives you control are in enemy territory, and each is contested by any friendly Galatian champions. Doable even with the utility guys. All right? It just has to be in enemy territory. Cool. Great. Okay, so this is a doable one. This is a doable one, but it's very battle tactic dependent, battle plan dependent. We'll talk about that when we get into that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, just to note it now, so only 4 of the 12 have this as even viable. Only 4 of the 12 meet the conditions for this battle tactic. Right. Yeah.
Which may or may not matter. So at first blush, that sounds like, oh, that's really bad. But if those 4 are 4 of the good ones that show up in most tournaments, cool. This suddenly becomes a very viable tactic. If those 4 are never in tournaments because they're bad, then this one's bad and it never gets done. Sure. Right? Like that's why I said it's very battle plan dependent. It's not just the count, it's also the quality. Right?
Yeah, fair.
Yep.
United offense. Pick 1 objective controlled by your opponent. You complete this battle tactic if you control that objective and 2 or more friendly Galatian champions are contesting that objective at the end of this turn. Okay. So what we see here is second in a row of objective dance Galatian champions. So again, high mobility Galatian champions, like those weird flying or high move Galatian champions, become so much more valuable, right? Like they don't have a mount, they just have wings or run really fast or whatever, right? Like the faster the Galatian champ, where they can sort of move around the board as you would need them, and or you teleport them or you tunnel master them or yeah. The more you can move these little people around, the better. Because they're going to need to be in different places.
Yeah.
Again, quite doable because it doesn't care where the objective is. It's just controlled by your opponent, and then it's not. So this one's very achievable. Yes, I agree. Knight of Zero stonks. Also, Skaven stonks in general, by the by. I would point out that Skaven have a horde of these idiots who can all be teleported quite easily and other associated silly tricks. Okay. And then finally, Cunning Maneuver. Pick 1 friendly Galatian champion on the battlefield that is more than 3 inches from all enemy units. Okay. You complete this battle tactic if at the end of the turn that Galatian champion is more than 3 inches from all enemy units and is contesting an objective you control that is wholly outside your territory. All right. So, pick a guy or gal, right, that isn't in a fight. And if at the end of the turn, they're still not in a fight, right, and they're contesting an objective you control that is wholly outside your territory. Wholly outside your territory. Okay. Yep. Is this the new what was it called, Tyler?
Against the odds.
Yeah, thank you. Is this the new against all odds?
Yes.
Yep. This is the new against all odds or whatever, like against the odds. Against all odds.
Most games that I played, if somebody is struggling, it's cunning maneuver. There we go. Good to go.
Yep, I'll just pick this. This dude's he's standing on this objective. It's not in my territory. At the end of the turn, he's still standing there. Got it. Behold my cunning. It's like they seek to name this one ironically. Because it is the most smooth brain play.
Yeah.
Yep.
At least it says wholly outside your territory. I mean, that's
true.
Some
it is just slightly harder than against the odds. Yes.
Just slightly.
Yeah, just slightly. Now you've got to like walk somewhere, maybe. So yeah. I mean, we've got a good mix here. Many seem doable. There's a giant elephant in the room. Okay? I feel we should address it here. There is one army amongst our 25 that only can complete 4 of these 8 battle tactics period. And this has been the big go-to for using book battle tactics. What about the sons? They cry. It's the what about the children? Won't someone think of the children? Okay.
Yeah.
Because obviously sons can't have Galatian champions. It does not exist. Right. Error 404, file not found. Right?
Yeah.
And so you are correct, Jack. Hence, and yes, exactly the analogy. And everybody said that's why you should use book battle tactics. Otherwise, giants can only get 4, and hence can't basically 5-0 a tournament and whatever. So, as a giant player, my first response is I'm not sure I care. I probably still won't play with my book of battle tactics because they're bad and I hate them anyways, and they make me angry. And I'll just get 4 and be like, no, it's good enough. My goal is very simple. I'm just gonna kill you now. Like, my new goal with giants is very simple. Kill the entire enemy army before the end of round 4. We lean into the smash build and we smash. And that's it, baby. And like, you ain't gonna get 5 battle tactics either, because you're gonna be dead.
Sure.
So I can't win the tournament because I didn't get my 25 battle tactics, but I can still go 5-0. I'm just gonna kill everybody. That's my new solution. So there we go. And for other Suns players out there, what I'll say is, yeah, it's unfortunate that like this whole season seems literally written to just pretend like the army doesn't exist. That does suck. Like, joking aside, that's pretty crappy. But it is what it is. I will still have fun playing the army because 0% of my enjoyment of playing Sons of Behemoth was dependent on their ability to complete battle tactics.
Sure. Yeah.
I picked Sons of Behemoth to suplex enemy monsters, and I will continue to do that.
Yeah. And embrace the hard mode, if in fact they're on hard mode now, which they appear to be. Just, embrace it.
I agree.
Best you can.
Yep. So that's fine. They're worse in melee, worse at killing things, and now worse at playing battle tactics. I mean, just great stuff, really, all around. As somebody who consistently picks and plays armies who get, like, mega nerfed into the ground, it's fine. You get used to it after a while. It's all good. Such is life. I mean, but if somebody put their army on the shelf for this season, their son's army on the shelf, I wouldn't hold it against them. I'd get it.
No, I would totally get it.
Yeah. Because it sucks. It sucks not being able to participate in the fun. Like, hey, here's a whole bunch of rules. Isn't this fun for everybody? And it's like, not you. You don't get to play. Okay. Battle plans. We got there, guys. We did it. Okay. Let's talk about battle plans. We're going to move through these quickly because half of them are repeats. So we are going to go through the first 6 very quickly. Prize of Galais. It's still Prize of Galais. Is it still the best battle plan in this season as well? Yes. 10 out of 10. It's a great, great, great scenario. It's got great deployment. It's got 5 objectives. It's got wonderful, like, the scoring nature of the thing is fantastic. There's nothing bad. It's great for tourneys. It's a 10 out of 10. It was a 10 out of 10 before. It's a 10 out of 10 now. It's good that we kept it.
Yeah, these would be interesting to see the impact of Proving Ground going away on some of these. Proving Ground tended to have relevance in prize. But no, it certainly, I don't think, hurts the mission. Yeah, it's still solid.
Absolutely. I think this just makes it an absolutely fantastic scenario. I'm so glad we're done with that Proving Ground crap and we don't just have to worry about it anymore. Clear that garbage out. I could cut about 50 more rules from each of these seasons and we'd be great. So good times from my book. So Prize of Galais, 10 out of 10, A+, should be in every tournament pack. 1 out of 5 down. Okay, cool. Next. Realmstone Cache. Not real popular tournament selection last season, though I like it a lot. It still has the same problems it always did, alpha bunkering and leads to a scrum in the middle and stuff like that. It does have a very simple, easy to measure deployment. It does change the game a lot. It's a very fun, suspenseful thing. That small deployment area is still a challenge. It was before. It still is, right? It's a good scenario. Might encourage a little bit too much. I still give it a 7 out of 10. Like, if it shows up in a tournament pack, I'm not sad about it.
What do you think about this one, Tom? Rumstone?
I mean, I don't know. I've never, I don't know. I'm not a big fan. I don't like when things move. Like, I know that it's...
Tom doesn't like random, uncontrolled elements of things moving around the board. And I get that.
It's just more, and what I mean by that is, like, it just takes more thought process to plan and what inevitably happens is this. I'll look at it, figure it out, this is fine. I'll be playing somebody who have not put as much thought in. They're just here to roll dice. And they lose the game because it goes a random direction. You know, like, or they don't plan appropriately. And, like, sure, that's a skill test. I get that, but, like, it's fine.
Sure,
it's fine.
I don't think it will be. I think it will continue to be not very popular because there's definitely a cohort of player and person out there who doesn't love the dice roll heavily determines sort of the overall winner of the game. And this does have it. The dice take a pretty heavy hand here.
Yeah. I wish I had more of a clear sense of how much alpha bunkering to roll in win conditions with this mission, because still when I read it, that is all that I see is armies that will go first, have the mobility, put durable units, zone out the 6 in the front, zone out the 6 in the back, and generally play the game to deny their opponent's scoring, primary objective scoring in round 1 and probably rounds 2, potentially round 2. Certainly if they do it in round 2, they could have just won the game right there.
Yep.
Just in terms of the score. But I don't actually, I'm going to care if anybody has thoughts on it. I've seen some games where I saw good players achieve that, and their opponent was insufficiently able to break their castle in the middle, right? And it decided the game, but it wasn't the standard that I saw. But yeah.
No, sure. It's tough. Like I said, I think in the end it'll continue to be a sort of minoritarian sort of placement in tournaments. I just think it will. It's okay. Yeah. It's fine. I think it's a very fun game for your home tabletop games. And I think it'll show up in some tournaments every so often. Mm-hmm. Battle lines drawn. Hey, good news. We got rid of the dumb rule. Okay. But so this one's the one where the objectives are the table quarters. That's it. Sure. That's the thing. As you pointed out, the realm spell gets real interesting in this particular battle plan. It is simple and easy to measure. I think it is easy to get caught out. I said this originally. I continue to place this. I actually moved this one up just slightly to a 5 out of 10 as far as its tourney readiness, because it doesn't have the bad you're dumb stop teleporting rule anymore. So like it's okay now at best. It's like it's interesting playing to the table quarters as objectives. That's not nothing. It is interesting.
I'm modeling a Vince Venturella. I still don't understand why you don't like this one. I agree that you do. I would expect you to find this like meaningfully intriguing as a unique experience.
Sure, because I'm separating my own personal tastes from what I think the average expectation of of its value to the game, right? Okay. My personal tastes are I would play this anytime, every time. I think it's fun and funny and hilarious and like, yeah, let's do it to it, right? Now that you got rid of the garbage rule that was garbage, right? The you can't teleport. I'm totally down with this. But the table quarters thing as a tournament function, right, is suspect to me just because of how much it's going to encourage a lot of very fiddly, sort of like moving around and weird counting and incentives and objectives back and forth, and just like it's going to cause a lot of strange situations in my head. And it is very easy to get like alpha blocked into your zone here as well, because of the nature. The only downside of this deployment is it is very susceptible to a strong alpha block. Right. So that's all. I could be convinced otherwise, but I again, it moved up to like, I'm not going to out and out revolt if it shows up in a tournament pack, which is what I would have done before. I would have like, I would have been like, well, I don't want to play in this tournament anymore. That's how bad
did you
it is.
get any match play, fairly competitive games in on this one? Like, get a good feel for it, or really? What's your current view on it? Dislike it, or?
No. I mean, I think it's fine. Like I said, I haven't gotten any games in, so yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, I think it's like middling at best. I think for a tournament, it's just prepped to cause headaches. Is my answer.
I would agree with that. I don't think that it is set up in a way, because of the linear structure of the scenario. It doesn't have the like in prior versions of this, it had like the late game control the objective, win the game condition, and this doesn't really have that. And so in some sense, it's just more bodies.
Right. I mean, it opens up a lot of like teleporting shenanigans, moving stuff around, dropping into the back, and just like towing into table quarters. Like, it feels like it's going to cause that. That's the kinds of weird interaction I'm talking about. And just also counting up like the models, right? The time of like, how many of these guys? No, this guy's slightly out. Like, units don't tend to operate within neat quarters. They'll tend to be spread out. And so it's like, who's in, who's out, that kind of thing. So. Like, it's gotta be annoying to just like have to run the tape measure along the entire line over and over again to be like this. It's not a killer. Okay, I'm not saying that's like a killer. I'm saying those are all little things that are gonna needle at you. Yeah.
Well, I mean, we did a show on this, so my opinion on this, Vince. I am hard in the minority on liking this mission. Hot take: I think it will play worse with the teleport now being on the table than it used to. But I get why people hated this mission. People don't like when you turn off faction abilities. Surprise. Sylvaneth players don't like that. Shock. Like, I get it. I 100% get it. So anyway, we don't have to repeat all those arguments, but I never had a bad game on this mission against some very good players. It was a different experience. Really enjoyed it. Clearly I'm in the hard minority on this. So
sure. Yep. Okay, I think you didn't see it before, and I think, honestly, you still probably won't see it very much.
Yeah,
some people will play around with it a little more. Anything that shut off faction abilities, most TOs were smart enough that used to be to go like, hey, let's not put this in a battle pack, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Now that it doesn't do that, I think it'll show up some, but not a bunch. Like, it'll increase, but not that much.
Yeah.
All right, lurkers, dwellers below. 1 out of 10. It remains garbage. It is hot Chinatown garbage. This thing is terrible. It's terrible. I've made the argument. I'm not going to go through it all again.
Yeah. No, yes. I'm generally.
See the 3 other shows we've talked about this battle plan and why it's trash.
Yeah, it's so hard at most events, is what I would say.
It's a bad table setup. It's a bad game setup. It's got an instant lose condition. Instant lose conditions generally suck. Like, they had to know this was one of the worst. Like, did they look at no numbers? Nobody played this. They showed up in like 0 tournament packs. This thing's garbage.
Yeah, and we've had the discussion about why you think there are differences between this and what I laid out, the history of these kinds of, or at least in my mind to some degree, the history of these kinds of missions, right? Blood and Glory, Knife to the Heart, Take and Hold, these instant win conditions, and so we don't have to repeat all that.
And,
like,
and most, a lot of people already hated those, and this is a worse version of those.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, I wasn't the biggest fan of most of those, and especially now that we have battle tactics. And if you're in a tournament where you're getting points allocated separately to scoring, to achieving and denying battle tactics, this could potentially play, do some weird things in that regard if you have an instant win condition.
I hope this shows up in zero battle tournament packs. Zero. And I agree with Scott R. Why did they keep this one? I've never put it in a pack. I trust Scott R. And Scott R. I trust. The man is a TO extraordinaire. All right. In the presence of idols, I like this one fine. I liked this one before. It's a 7 out of 10 for me. It's pretty good. I like the sort of cross of like the deployment versus the X going to give it to you of the box setup versus where the objectives are. So it's cool. It was good before. It does heavily reward shooting. The more you see about this, the more, and it tends to be quite beneficial to shooting still. So
yeah.
But
yeah, very, very solid mission.
But yeah, it's good. So like if you like shooting and you want shooting to be good, then this one's pretty good. So, and that's fine, by the way. You can have one mission that rewards that kind of play. It's okay. So there's a later one that I think rewards shooting too heavily. This one's like, it's there, but there's a later one, and the new ones we'll talk about that's too big. And then finally, the Nidus Paths. This is the last one we kept. Good. Like I gave it a 6 out of 10. I could be moved to a 7 out of 10. The only thing that really makes me hate it is this deployment map is bad. It's just super bad. It's like the worst. And Tyler, shut your face.
It's
fine. We've talked about it before, but that's really what hurts it for me. But I could be argued up to a 7 on this. I like the Nidus Paths. It's fine. It's an interesting sort of thing. It makes people deck chair sit to some degree, or just ignore it completely. I generally like the box setup on objectives. I think the box setup is a nice objective setup. Like I think I invest a lot of how good is a scenario, a mission, into just like how are the objectives set up, because I think that's a huge deal into how much it encourages movement and spread and stuff like that around the board. And Flaming, yeah, absolutely Flaming. 10 out of 10 was Prize of Galay. Straight 10 out of 10. It is fire. Play it. It's fun. I mean, I've played it like 50 times, and I'm still, every time we play it, I'm like, yeah, let's do it. I'm ready for this one. I cannot count the number of times I've played that. Like, oftentimes in our just like weekly games, we just were like, do this one? Yeah, sure. It's fun. Okay. Anyways. Yeah, it's good. Tyler, any problems with Nidus Paths?
That's fantastic. Yeah. Yeah, it'll make its way hopefully into a lot of packs.
I agree. 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10. Good with it. It's fine. Good spread. Bad setup. Bad setup. So bad the setup. But other than that, it's a good scenario. Like, they could have just changed the picture. That's all they had to do.
Well,
it's literally it.
They could have complained about it enough that clearly.
It's just like, how much is it to have the guy do one more picture or the gal do one more picture? Whoever, right? How much is it to have this person change one piece of art?
Yeah.
It cannot be that expensive.
Is your support club in the comments, people supporting you with your terrible takes on these deployments that are not even remotely as. All right, I'm going to shut up now. Let's move on.
Moving on.
Here
we go.
Sorry. Okay, let's talk new ones, because here's the. Now let's get into the meat of the thing, the new battle plans. What's interesting? Okay, only the worthy. So here we have our 6 new ones. Deployments wholly within your territory, 9 inches away. So we've got the traditional meeting in the middle, 9 inches out, so 18-inch DMZ.
Yep.
Shrines of Conquest. While there are any Galatian champions within 6 inches of an objective, only Galatian champions can contest that objective. In addition, no more than one Galatian champion from the same army can contest the same objective at the same time. So spread out and so on and so forth. Okay. So the setup is interesting. It is rather blocked into the middle. It's like there's like rotating this box into this line actually makes a big difference over the other line. Like this box is very different from this box. If you understand what I'm saying. Like if it was existing at these 4 points instead of these 4 points, it would actually make a huge difference in the spread of the army. It's just a small thing. But it's okay. It's good, easy setup. It's a nice design on the 4 points. I don't hate it. Not as good as it could be, but I don't hate it. Hope you have good Galatian champs is my bad about it. If you don't, sorry, Sons of Bahamut, you just get to auto lose on this particular mission. So I don't know what to tell you. You just don't get to win this. Like, what's the Sons of Bahamut on this spread on this one? 90-10?
Gosh, yeah, it's probably pretty rough. Yeah, you're gonna
you can't throw rocks at the champions to kill them. They're gonna just bunker them in the middle of the unit so you can't attack them. So they're just gonna sit there and hold 1, hold 2, hold more over you forever.
Yeah,
kill quick.
It's not really a play. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure this is as close to auto losing a scenario with an army as you could possibly get.
Yeah,
right.
It's fair.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. For everybody else, you're probably in the game here. What I said was, if you have the ability to remove enemy Galatian champions at range, magic, non-targeted attacks, things like that, because the only thing that the season is stopping is ranged attacks, right? Missile attacks.
Right. So you could do like magic and stuff like that.
Yeah, sure. If you're Sylvaneth tootin' at a distance, right? Just war song bombing and using the new spell to just be like, word to your moms, I came to drop bombs, right? Or you have like pick a point, damage everything around the point spells, long distance endless spells, right? Any of these sorts of things, if those are in your wheelhouse. Looking at you, Zinch. What's up? How you doing? This is like, this can be a pretty strong scenario for you where you could just win because you just basically by the bottom of one eliminate all of their Galatian champions, and now they're just a Sons of Bahamut army. They just can't contest anymore. And that's my problem with this one. I went back and forth. I marked this one back and forth as like a 4 out of 10, a 3 out of 10, a 5 out of 10. I really went back and forth on this because I have no clue how much to measure that effect.
Yeah. So.
Oh, by the way, or if like sharpshooter ends up being a really huge thing, then obviously also that, because that will let you remove champions.
Right. Yeah, I'm kind of a Jekyll and Hyde on this as well. I'll predict. So you made your prediction. Tom, I'm curious your take on this. I do find this the most fascinating of the missions that could be played, or maybe that, because there are some that probably should not be played at GTs. I think this will turn out to be fine in terms of the aggregate of the variables that we're looking at, which is a lot to even try to begin to go into it. With how the games will end up playing on the whole, I think it'll turn out to be okay, and this will be a good mission, or much closer to a good mission than a bad mission.
Okay, let me interrupt you real quick with a point, just that may weigh into your thinking. By the way, Keith, that Suns does not weigh into my rating at all. Like, I didn't even think about them in establishing this rating. I don't care. I just assume they suck in this season. They're not factoring into my rating, Sons of Bahamut. The last time we had a scenario like this, it was the one where, do you remember the scenario where that only heroes could claim points?
Yeah.
You really hit me. This is a very low blow. It's below the belt. What's going on here right now? I don't appreciate it. Duality of Death.
Okay. Did you like Duality of Death?
It was my least favorite mission, maybe of all time.
Because if somebody just pulled the trigger and captured heroes, you went good game and scooped.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it was terrible.
Okay. Now I have to kill less things to put you into that position.
Yeah.
Because before, I had to kill all your heroes, including potentially very tough ones, right? Like, I had to pull a Marathi or a Stardrake or whatever off the table to stop you from being able to do that. Here, I've just got to kill 3-foot dorks.
I mean, if they can, yeah.
Yeah, and then... I'm 100% sold on the power of Zinch in this mission, probably the power of Skaven. Though Skaven, if people lean in the direction, as you said, of taking sharpshooters, the 3 obvious go-tos, Giselle's, Storm Friends and Warp Lightning Cannons clearly do not fit in sharpshooters, so maybe we will see some adjustments.
It's gutter runners, Tyler. It's just gutter runners.
Got it. I heard you earlier. So, but I'm saying that we were not seeing an enormous number of gutter runners being played previously. So maybe that will be the adoption.
I don't know what list you were looking at, but I was looking at the ones with all the ninja rats in them.
Sure. But what I'm getting at is there are armies that are shooting that have strong incentives to be very low drop. Lumineth as the obvious example. There are shooting armies that are quite fragile, that it's not necessarily apparent to me. So I'm thinking about Stormcast, like, okay, if a long strike Stormcast army kill my three, let's say I've got 3 galley champs, I don't, there's a lot of armies I think that could still be competitive against in that matchup in the game. I don't think it's necessarily an auto loss in the way that you're thinking of it.
I don't think anything's an auto loss. Again, other than Suns, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's real likely
that are on
that there's going to be a lot of games that end in turn 2 with 3 dead galley champs and scoop.
Of course, they have to have galley champs testing those objectives, which you can kill with your army if they're on those objectives. I mean, part of your thesis this show has been people are not going to be running that many mid-board, quote-unquote, durable galley champs. They're mostly going to be leaning toward these utility.
I'm playing a shooting or reach army against a melee army, and I lift your 3 galley champs. What do you do?
Well, I mean...
Do you scoop?
Like, so now are you saying that you're fully in the... are you fully in the battalion that lets you pick them out?
No, I don't know. Like what I'm saying is through one way or another, okay, this is the situation I'm describing to you. On one side of the board is a shooty army or a range, a power projection army, okay, that has the ability to kill galley
like
champs.
What? Yeah, like.
And then on the other side of the board is a mostly melee army. There's a lot of them around, right? Nurgle, S2D, whatever. A mostly melee army. Pick your poison. There's a lot of them out there. Okay? And I lift your 3 galley champs. Mine are in the middle of all my units. You playing this one out?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, how much do you think you're going to win? What's your win percentage playing it out?
Well, I mean, I would play it out of spite, which is...
I understand. You know, what's your win percentage from pulling back from that?
Not sure. So I'll get some games in with this.
Because I'm going to say it's 2 out of 10, 3 out of 10 at best.
I mean, my answer is that I'm going to select armies about that.
I understand.
If I'm saying, like, it's... If this is in the running, I'm going to select armies that don't have to worry about that. That, sure, you may have power projection, but you're going to have to lift all 6-foot heroes.
Yeah. I understand. Some armies will have so many that, yes, it becomes hard. Like the Nighthaunt is a good classic counter to this, right? Where not only are they... Is it hard to lift all their dumb heroes with stacked ward saves, but also then they have, like, you know, ridiculous mobility ghosts floating around them and everything else. Yeah.
So let me give you an example, Vince, from you want to go ahead.
I don't think this is as bad as Duality of Death, but I think this is an extremely swingy scenario. Extremely swingy.
Okay. I would agree it has that potential. Yeah. And particularly if it's from the lens of the broad player base. Yeah. But as an example, I finally got a decent test in with what I'm looking at for tournaments early this season, which is a melee Stormcast.
Sure.
Okay. So foundations of Karazai and 10 Protectors. Utility heroes, Castellan, Relictor, 2x5 libs, 5 Judies, and Sharpshooter. Okay. So melee list. If they... Generally, it went pretty well. It was on Tuesday. A good Lumineth player with a very good techless build, a lot of shooting, Rune Petch Fact, like what you would expect, right?
Sure.
With techless. Previous games had been very difficult with all the mortal wound output, etc. I was incredibly competitive and won that game. There's various variables. It's a longer discussion about why. But if he had been shooting my galley champs that game, more power to him. because I would have won. I think the odds of me winning would have gone up even further if that's had been what he had been doing. Do you know what I mean by that?
I do.
If he's spending his time taking out my Relictor, my Castellan, my Azeros, more power to you, buddy.
Yeah. I got you.
It's good to me.
I'm with you. And that's why I say, like, I'm not saying this is like the what. If I thought it was insta lose or that bad or like or auto lose, I would have marked it a 1 out of 10 and said it shouldn't be in a tournament at all. I didn't. I marked it a 5 out of 10. Right. Because I think it's not duality of death, but it certainly harkens and has a lot of echoes of that. And I think that's the swinginess that will result. That's what I'm saying.
Well, at 10:38 p.m. on a Wednesday, January. Tom, I'm gonna mark this as first time I've won an argument against this man. I'm gonna mark this occasion. Refer back. I'm putting this as a win in my book.
Out.
So yeah,
you may count it as whatever you want. Okay. Let's talk about Path of the Champion. I mean, I didn't change my number. I still had it at a 5 out of 10, so I don't know what you won, but congratulations all the same. Path of the Champion. Deployment wholly within your territory, more than 9 inches from enemy. So, again, box to box. It's fine, easy enough, like that setup. It is a little susceptible to the alpha bunkering, as previously mentioned, but what I like about this one is it actually encourages some interesting spread here, which is nice, because it's like correctly. I love this 4-box objective setup. Love it. Classic. Super good. At the start of your hero phase, if any friendly Galatian champions are contesting an objective that is wholly outside your territory, you can pick 2 battle tactics to complete in that turn instead of only 1. Thanks. I hate it. Okay? Like, I hate this. It's such a nice setup. It's such a nice objective map.
Yeah.
Double battle tactics. Double rainbow. Terrible. Terrible. Double battle tactics will heavily favor those who can reach deep into book battle tactics and run up the score. It's that simple.
Yeah.
There is literally nothing else in here. This is your biggest incentive on running heavy GC, even more than the other ones, because you can just like run the score to 1,000,000. Okay.
Yeah.
And it will make the already potentially slanted world of book battle tactics way worse. 3 out of 10. I hate this thing.
How different is this in your mind if we're not doing faction/book battle tactics? We're just doing the GHB.
Well, then it gets kind of interesting all of a sudden, because you'll burn through, like, you could, potentially you burn through all the battle tactics and have nothing else to complete, right?
Yeah.
In that world, it's maybe more interesting. I would need to think about that deeply, right?
Yeah.
Because you're just going to run into really hard ones then really fast.
Yeah.
Right? So, maybe it's okay in that world. But in the world where we're using the rules, because apparently you have to play with all the rules.
Apparently.
Apparently. I thought TOs were actually in charge of things, but what did I know? This is just
that was a passive aggressive moment. In case anybody missed that, there was some passive aggressiveness there. Certainly was on my part. I don't know about you. I can't speak for you.
It was a revelatory moment for me.
I recognize I'm probably in the minority here, but for me, like, I'm probably just going to self-select out of events that use the battle pack.
Well, especially this. This is like, take a thing that's already controversial and that a lot of people have a problem with, and now double down on how much they impact the game. Like, I just think this thing's bad.
Yep.
I just think it's bad.
Yeah, I don't think that, like, to follow up, because I wasn't obviously on the show when you guys covered did that conversation, but my take is simply this: I don't think that you can have meaningful competitive events that communicate anything with Battle Tome tactics. Like, I think that because I think it skews the results terribly.
Okay. Strong stance. I like it. Yeah. But anyways, I hate this.
Let me say it this way. You may as well be playing a narrative event.
So like, these are strong words.
I don't like, you can call it a competitive event. That's fine. But you may as well use the items from like you
The
may
stuff
as well
from
be
Thondia?
using
Is that what you're aiming at?
yeah the stuff from Thondia, or you may as well just like playing the malign portals pack.
Yeah, sure. All right.
Of scenarios, because it's not. It's
oh,
in
nothing.
No
Tom
way
goes to a
balanced.
Tom and I go to a bunch of narrative events. He's not saying
Yeah,
wrong
yeah.
with it. He's
To
just
be
saying
clear,
you're mislabeling.
You're mislabeling your event because it's not competitive, because it's not mathematically like it skews way too hard towards certain arms.
Okay, so all fair. I just want to keep moving.
So this is why you won, Tom, with takes like that. Just bold.
Just bold, clean, strong takes. All right.
Yeah.
As per usual, if we had just stopped writing with the like, if this was just literally the challenge, the scenario, right? If you deleted Leadership Forged in battle, I'd be like, yes, perfectly fine. Battle plan. Like, I didn't need anything special going on. It's just, oh, cool, neat 4-box fight. Like, it's fine. It'd be fun.
That map is still my favorite out of all the maps.
Yeah, like this is a great map, and hey, that's great. Unrelated, but after a lengthy hobby slump, I just completed my first set of minis for 2023. That's awesome, man. Glad to hear. Keep the hobby, keep going, starting strong. This map would be like 4 points stronger in my scoring if it didn't have that dumb rule. That's it. Like literally, if that rule was replaced by ipsum lorem text, it'd be a 7 out of 10.
Fair.
Yeah,
that's it.
That checks out.
So don't use this. It's bad. It's a miss. Straight miss. Okay. Jaws of Gallet. Interesting setup here with these two like sort of long L's. Yeah. That's an interesting setup. I don't hate this one. I don't hate this one. I'm okay with this. Wholly within your territory, more than 9 inches away, so fine. Kind of again, we got the 4-box, but then also one in the center. And then Swallowed by the Caverns. At the start of each battle round after the first, after priority has been determined, the player taking the second turn in that battle round can pick one objective on the battlefield to be swallowed by the caverns below. If they do so, that objective is removed from play. Okay. I shouldn't say terrible. That's too strong. It's a strange deployment map. It's not terrible. That was copy paste error. High incentive for going second each round, like really high, like super duper crazy high. Bad? I don't really have anything to say about this that's bad. I mean, scoring will get really tight in later battle rounds if the game goes the distance, because you will very quickly run out of objectives.
Yeah.
But I think this is one of the better ones the new season. This one's got an 8 out of 10 from me. I like this one. I like the huge incentive on going second and not taking the double, like a really big incentive. Eating objectives out from under your opponent is fun. It's a classic mechanic that has been put to great use in a lot of different things. I like that when you eat it, you don't get any bonus points or anything. Right? It's nothing like that. It's not like Silk Steel Nest or something, right? Where you or that ilk, where by eating their objective you also get a bonus point. No, it's just you're just taking it away as a scoreable thing, like out from under them or whatever. Right? You can choose any one. So I like this one. I think this one's cool. I'd love to see this one in an event. Like the setup, like the objectives, like what's going on, like the incentive structure. 8 out of 10. Right?
What do you think?
I like deployment. I know it's really weird. Like it's really interesting.
No, I think this. I think this is interesting.
Because it incentivizes spreading armies apart. And it deeply rewards non one drop armies.
Yeah.
See that?
Yeah, this one's cool.
I played this last night against Lumineth, which probably contributed toward making me more competitive against a castle shooting army this mission. So definitely appreciate that. It's pushing against castles, particularly shooting castles. This is outstanding. My favorites.
Cool setup, cool objective map, cool effect. This is great. If I could see this one maybe moving up for me a little. Like it's an 8 out of 10 at first blush. I haven't got to play it yet. If I play it and really enjoy it, this could move up a point or two.
Yeah.
I do think this is the strongest on offer. I guess just like of Gallet means of quality. So like prize of, jaws of. That's what we mean here.
That's
code. All right. Hours for the taking. The objective on the border of each territory is the home objective of the relevant player. Deployment wholly within your territory. So there's no special rule here. It's in the scoring. So the special rule here is effectively, this is really interesting. Control your home objective is 1. Control the center objective is 1. Control the enemy's home objective is 2. Control the center objective, and that objective is contested by a friendly Galatian champion. 1. Okay? So the center objective is worth a max of 2 if you have the GC near there.
Yep.
The enemy one is worth 2 all the time, and you don't get any bonus from that, and yours is just worth 1.
Yeah. I like this one.
Yeah, go ahead, please, Tom. Yeah, go.
I like this one as well, simply because of the deployment. Deployment makes this super interesting.
100%.
Yeah.
About whether, because your home objective, unlike most other examples of this that we've had in the past, your home objective is under threat from turn 1.
11
yeah,
inches
and you
away.
got to make this real hard decision about how much is sitting way over on this side protecting your home versus way out in the push forward position to push against theirs, which I like a lot.
Which push forward are you pushing for? Are you pushing into the middle, or are you pushing into... Yeah, it's a great... Yeah, I love this. It is the exact type of, tactical, challenge that I love to see in their scenario writing.
I'm going to move this from bad. I put this in bad, and I don't think it's actually a bad thing. I'm going to cut this here, and we're going to put it down here, because I think that's more fair. It's interesting. It's not bad. Okay.
Your point, Tom, this is another one that rewards high drops, or that gives benefit to higher drops.
Cool. Where are you putting all your stuff? How are you dividing your forces? Awesome. I'll choose my... Thank you.
Absolutely. Totally agreed. Didn't even have that point. I completely agree with you. This one I marked as a 7 out of 10. I could see it going to an 8 out of 10. I like this one a lot. Yeah. I think this is a better take on the classic sort of battle for the pass or whatever, that kind of thing. It's clearly aping the same sort of mechanic with the 2 home objectives in the center, right? But we actually cracked the code on how to... First of all, it's not 1, 2, 4 or something flat. Right? It's 1, 1, 2, 2. So scores still remain much closer. You don't just lose because you lost your home objective for 1 round. Right? And the setup completely changes the nature of the game here that the classic battle for the passes with the 1, 2, 4 didn't, or 1, 2, 4 or whatever, however you want to set it up, just didn't, right? They fell right into that trap. And I think this one is very, very strong.
Yeah, it's 1A and 1B, Jaws of Gallet and Hours for the Taking for me with these new 6.
Yep.
Played this one a couple of times. Amazing, both times. All the reasons that we've discussed. Yeah, you've got incentives to consider all 3 of these as part of your game plan. I like the use of galley champs. There's even an argument in some matchups and some lists to take first up on that center or whatever the case might be. Yeah, there's a number of variables and they're all working in this mission.
And this feels like, by the way, the right amount of weight to put on the galley champs. It's valuable, it's useful, it's not game determinative, it's not scoop if you don't have it kind of thing. You know, it's just a potential 1 bonus victory point. Correct. That's a big deal, by the way. I'm not saying it's not a big deal. I'm saying it's exactly the right amount of deal.
Correct. Yeah, it's the right incentive structure.
Yeah.
So we haven't called that out. That's one of the points we've emphasized on the show over the years. Give us more battle plans that just have 1 element going on, 1 rule at most, right? And then maybe 1 special scoring element, ideally with small variants, 1 victory point extra. Yeah, they did a pretty good job this year with that. I mean, some of these 1 rules are misses, but you know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, that's the problem. When you bank it all in 1 rule, it better be a good rule.
Yeah.
So like, but this one is good. Good design, good implementation, good execution, fun stuff. It does have the risk castle problems, challenges, whatever, but it's not a problem. It's just a fact, right? And so like it sets up that structure. Yeah, I like this one. 7 out of 10, maybe 8 out of 10. When we come back to it, this is another one I could see going up a point or so. Okay, twists and turns. Oh boy, well, they couldn't be good forever. Here we go. Objectives. The objectives used for this battle are either active or inactive. At the start of the battle, all objectives are active. More on that in a moment. Wholly within your territory, more than 9 inches from enemy territory. We're using this L map again, which is fine. I don't hate the L map.
Yep.
Changing priorities. At the end of each player's turn, after any victory points have been scored, the player whose turn is taking place must roll a dice for each active objective they control. Add 1 to the roll if that objective is contested by any friendly Galatian champions. On a 1 through 3, that objective becomes inactive. On a 4+, it remains active. At the start of each player's hero phase, the player whose turn is taking place rolls a dice for each inactive objective they control. On a 1 to 3, it remains inactive. Add 1 to the roll if that inactive objective is contested by any friendly Galatian champions. On a 4+, it becomes active once more.
There is so many dice being rolled.
This is a lot of text. But let me break this down and try to make it simpler. It's the end of your turn. You control 2 objectives. You're going to roll a die for each of those. And either on a 4-up or a 3-up, depending on the presence of a galley champ, that keeps being an objective, or it flips and it's inactive. The opponent can't take it from you, but you can't score it next round either, unless it goes active again. Yep. When it rolls back to your hero phase, you're going to roll again. Right? And
No. Hold on. You're going to roll and it goes inactive. Like, let's say it goes inactive.
Yes.
The initiative then would go to the other player. They roll at the start of their hero phase.
No, because...
to turn it back on.
No, they wouldn't. Okay. Because... you only roll for each inactive objective you control. This is the thing. Okay? So at the end of your turn, you're going to roll, and some are going to shut off and some are going to stay active. Yeah? On either a 3-up or a 4-up. Then it's going to pass to the enemy turn. They can't take the inactive ones for you or interact with them in any way. Now, they can go stand around it. Right? Like, they can kill you off of it and stand around it and then hope when it rolls through your turn and then back to their turn that they then roll a 3-up or 4-up.
To reactivate it, yeah.
To reactivate it. Okay? But what's actually going to happen here a lot is you're going to stand on the thing, roll it inactive, it goes to their turn, they don't take it from you, and then you're just hoping that it turns back on at the start of your turn.
Yeah.
Okay? I marked this too high. It's 4 out of 10. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting deployment map. Again, I like this map. It is 5 objectives. I just want to point that out. There is an objective down here in the corner and an objective up here in the corner. So this actually uses corner of the board, edge of reality objectives. Okay? So all the way across the line, there are 5 objectives. Amazing. Okay?
Amazing.
All right. Why can't you take an inactive objective? Because it's inactive?
You can take it, you just don't score anything for it.
Right, you don't score anything for it.
Yes,
right.
You can contest it. You just can't. You don't score points.
Right, because your scoring is right here. Control 1 or more active objectives, and so on and so forth. Like you can gain control of it. That's what I'm saying. You can gain control of the inactive thing to no actual scoring point. Right, it happens. They're still contestable and controllable. It's just you don't score anything off of it. So you're tracking like how many active objectives do you have versus inactive objectives, and blah 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 blah. Right.
Yep.
Okay. I don't like this. 4 out of 10 is probably being generous. It's interesting that we got the first use of the corner where an objective is partially off the board. Like, neat. It's a historical landmarker. Right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yes, it would. Yes, Clack, it would still count as contesting and controlling for purposes of battle tactics because it's only scoring that cares about active or inactive. The bad here is there's lots of rolling, easy confusion. People will forget it, will forget to roll, will roll poorly, and it's very, 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 very random. Like, you will play to the best of your ability and sometimes just not roll a 3-up on a couple of key objectives, and the opponent will roll 3-ups or 4-ups on theirs, and they will, and that's it, and the game will be decided. What I don't like about this is... Here's why I don't like this battle plan. I can make it this simple. Let's go back here to this. Okay? Let's look at the picture. Tyler, Tom, I'm gonna stretch out an imaginary scenario for you. You ready? Okay. I'm the blue player. All right? At the beginning of the game, I run out and take this objective, and this one. Like the center and the top right two. Okay? And then score those. Hold 1, hold 2, hold more. Like, they're all active at that point. My red opponent moves down here and takes these bottom two, the bottom left two.
Yep.
Okay? And then we proceed for the rest of the game to not move.
Yep.
Nobody moves, nobody fights.
Yep.
There is zero further interaction in the game. We literally just we literally just sit there and stare at each other. And I go, hero phase, no actions, I'm done. Movement, no movement, I'm done. Shooting, no attacks, I'm done. No charges, no fights, done. Your turn. And they do the same thing.
Yeah, and you still meaningfully don't know what's going to happen. Correct.
I could, as the blue player, I could still very easily lose that challenge.
Of course.
That scenario.
Yep.
Right?
That's true. Yep.
There's still a quite meaningful chance that I lose that thing.
Yep.
That feels bad somehow, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not crazy here, yeah?
So I've not played this one, but I would be surprised if this were not a hard pass for a number of reasons that you've laid out.
Yeah, I mean, again, it just ends up being another set of random. Like, this is just a random. This is in some sense is relocation orb, but just a little bit different. Like, it is a toss of the dice. There are some things where you can kind of nudge that here or there, but the question is how many 4-ups can you roll?
Yeah. Maybe you're trying to get clever and not getting within range to trigger the active inactive mechanic, but I don't know. It just it looks like a hard pass.
Yeah, I think Twists and Turns is a hard pass. I scored it a 4 out of 10 just for like sheer, I guess, novelty of using the corners as the objectives. But honestly, I don't think this should be in tournament packs. I just don't. I think it is. I'll play it in my home game because I love weird random things happening. Sure. Although I hate all the mental tracking. Like, how much rolling for rolling are you going to do here?
Yeah.
All the rolling for rolling.
You know, that's actually the part that even I don't like. It's just all the rolling and bookkeeping. People will screw this up left and right. Just they will.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just got to look at that block of text, Vince, to get paranoid about this. You don't have to read it, but just looking at that block of text.
I could, if I was in a development position and somebody passed this to me, I would have looked at the size of that block of text and went, "I'm not reading this. Do it again."
Yeah.
There's no way that's good. Anything valuable didn't take that many words to say. Try again.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. And then position over power. Again, using the partially off-board objectives all the way at the edges of the table. But here, instead, you've got these two flanks, and then the middle one with this, like, squished deployment zone. So it's an 18-inch DMZ, but then a squished space behind that, right? So it's a little bit bigger than Lurkers, because it extends out another few inches in front of the 11-inch line.
Yep.
But it's not that much bigger, but a little bit. Meaningfully different. And then Lost in the Landslide. At the start of the 4th battle round, the flank objectives are removed from play. So no randomness to it. Everybody knows it's happening, right? It's a known quantity. It's just like there's effectively in the first 3 rounds there are 4 objectives. In round 4 and 5 there are 2 objectives. That's what's happening here.
Yeah.
And then 1 objective, hold 1, hold 2, hold more. But then if you control any flank objective contested by a Galatian champ, 1 VP, again, any, so you don't get 1 for each.
Mm-hmm.
It's just 1. We wrote the right word here. Control any flank objective. Good job. So we're not getting 2 bonus points out of this. So again, we got a 1 victory point Galatian champ incentive structure. The correct amount of incentive. Okay.
Yeah.
Overall, I think this one's kind of neat. It forces the enemies to start in the center but spread relatively quickly while then collapsing back at the end, theoretically. It really pushes movement being important because of the constrained deployment zone. I mean, the bad is that many games don't go to the 4th battle round. So,
Sure.
like, there's a lot of games. I've played a lot of games that get to round 3 and stop. And so the special rules in this particular scenario may just, like, never happen. Right? Fast Galatian champions, however you can achieve that, give a big points advantage early. So again, Knight of Zeros, teleporting people, setting up your null holes, and you know, near those objectives. Like, I know where my 2 null holes are going in this one every time.
Right.
You know, that kind of stuff. I don't think it really has any big challenges. It has play. It's again a 7 out of 10. I think it's successful. I think it could show up. I think it's fine.
I like it too. I mean, one thing I was thinking about, so of course, because they're bordering the edges of the battlefield, you have less space that you are trying to zone out, right?
Sure.
Cutting off the space that you need to zone in terms of alpha bunkering plays.
Yeah, because
in
it's not
particular.
the full circle. You're only protecting the half circle.
Right. So armies that could potentially, I don't know how often that would be done, but that was one thing that stood out with this. That could be a play, yes, if you've got the means to have the mobility to alpha bunker on even both flank objectives, hold a little back on your own, then you probably have the mobility to redirect from that point, at least with some of that army, as the game advances. Yeah, maybe some armies could lean into that kind of play. But yeah, generally 7 out of 10 feels about right to me.
Yeah. Like, if it showed up, I'd be like, okay, cool, great. Let's do it. Again, I'm not sad about this one. So to wrap, let's just a quick review. Out of our 6 new ones, we've got 1 that's, so 1, good. Twists and turns, bad. So we got 1 in each. Ours for the taking, sorry, real good. So we got 2 real good ones. Jaws of Galay, 3 real good ones. Path the Champion, 3 and 2. Very bad. Don't use it. It's bad. It's bad. And then Only the Worthy, which is like, okay, I'll count it in the good category. Like, it's okay. It'll probably qualify there. I think we've got 4, I'll call them viable, usable, out of the new 6. Which is good. That means that is an overall increase from last season. Because then when combined with the other ones, you've got then 5 usable in the Nidus paths, 6 usable in the presence of idols, and then 7 in the Realm Stone and 8 in the Prize of Galay. Yeah. And I know Tyler might argue for 1 or 2 more of those, but he's wrong. But to me, bargain basement, you've got 8. Yeah, and 8 is fine. 8 is a good number.
Yeah,
I'd rather it be. Workable. Yep, I'd rather it be 11 or 12, but 8 is fine. 8 is fine. So.
Yeah, good place to be.
Absolutely. Okay.
So I did have a few high-level questions. I know we're pushing on time. I was curious if you guys think we're going to see more shooting or less shooting relative to the last 6 months.
More.
Yeah, more.
You're going to see
all
more.
The incentives say have more. Let me say it this way. More power projection being a winning strategy. Whether or not that translates into shooting, I have a lot of questions on how much sharpshooting / the sharpshooter battalion and all that crap gets taken and matters. I don't know what situation we'll be in with that. But I think everything in this, the secondary consequence of Galatian champions is kill the Galatian champions, and that means power projection.
Yeah.
Yep, they are incentivizing you to have those tools.
Do you think we're going to see? So I think it's fair to say we all agree we're going to see more bodies broadly defined.
Sure.
How much
I mean, now
more?
that I don't have to have my units blown up by risking enemy
Right.
bounty hunters,
Right.
of course, yeah. I mean, absolutely. I'm going to put some storm vermin back on the table and clan rats back on the table and stuff like that. Yeah, sure.
And my general read is, like I said at the top, I think the combination of elements, right, the ingredients to the ecosystem recipe will be the best blend that we've had in some time. It's kind of like my general feeling. I see a reason for some shooting, a reason for durability, for melee, DPS checking, for more bodies. Monsters are still, some monsters, hero monsters, will still be relevant for various reasons. Yeah, it feels like we'll have a pretty good blend this season, like not weighted too hard in any particular direction.
I think I agree with that. I think that, again, I think the idea of people taking foot melee heroes and using all of the nonsense around that is just is completely silly. Like, I just don't think you're going to see a lot of the Galatian command and those heroic actions. I think we're all just going to move on and forget about that stuff pretty much instantaneously. I think that you're going to see the same utility quality foot heroes you always took before being taken, and now they're just harder to kill.
Yeah.
Right.
And you guys think that average drop count's going to go down? We're going to see more one drops?
Yes. On average, it will go. The one drop thing's hard to predict. Probably yes, but I think average will go down. Yeah.
Tom, what was your view on that again? So you thought we would have a harder lean into
a sharper spread, and so you're either going to see more people go hard one drop or just lean into all the drop.
Okay. Yeah.
I think it's going to skew one way or the other. I don't think it's going to. It does not lend itself. Let me say it that way. It does not lend itself to being somewhere in the middle.
Okay. Very good. All right, everybody. Well, there we go. We did it. What do you think? Tell us below. Make sure you drop it in the comments. I didn't mention once in this entire show hit like. I really should do that. I should be better at this YouTube thing after 9 years or whatever. But here we are.
You'll get better someday.
Someday I will. At any rate, hey, everybody. Thanks so much for watching. We really appreciate it. Hit like, hit subscribe if you didn't already. Hit all the fun buttons. Don't forget, if you want to support the show, you can do so through the Patreon link down below. That's focused on hobby and review and feedback and taking your next step on your hobby journey. There's also a merch store down there, so you can check that out as well. But as always, share it with your friends. Hit all those buttons. Buttons are fun. Click them hard. Click them now. Click. But as always, no, thank you, Tom. Thank you, Tyler. A lot of fun. I'm excited about the new season. That's the last thing I'll say. I think we're all excited, right?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, yes. For me, and I've said the more determinative factor is going to be whether book battle tactics are adopted or not.
Sure.
That's more determinative than anything.
Sorry, Sons of Badmont. I guess enjoy the shelf and/or having a rough go of it for the next 6 months. Hopefully, it's better the next time around. So
we need to get some Sons of Badmont hard mode awards going in the community.
100%, absolutely.
That hard mode award ad. Yeah.
Yep. But otherwise, thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate it. As always, we'll see you next Wednesday.